All right, guys, welcome to the show. Happy Friday. I hope you're all having a fantastic week. Today, we're going to be doing what you requested, and that is that we react to Jubilee's middle ground with cheating people versus the cheated on people. It's going to be an interesting subject matter. We're going to talk all things relationships, all things betrayal, affairs, the like. You get the gist. Before we get into that, we have Taylor in Nashville.
Hey, happy Friday, and I can't really say happy Good Friday. I don't think that's the proper greeting, but to those observing Good Friday, shout out to y'all as well.
Shout out. Now, hopefully this remains a Good Friday as we bring up the subject matter of being cheated on. I have been cheated on in a past relationship, so I know which camp I'm in for this Jubilee middle ground. You'll have to let me know in the comments down below which camp you're in. Are you the cheater? Are you the cheated on? Are you both? Taylor, where do you stand on this middle ground?
I'm in the neither camp, which hopefully there's many of you watching that are in that camp as well. But we'll make a little poll and let you guys represent your faction, so to speak.
Not a cheater, nor has he been cheated on. Okay, guys, without further ado, let's get into this episode and see what we find.
That the person that you cheated on needs to know. So if you're gonna say, like, I'm not gonna tell them because of psychological damage, it's honestly, you're not even taking accountability for what you did.
Yeah. Hold on.
You chose to cheat.
Disclosing that you cheated to the person that you cheated on is not accountability. That is just revealing
That is taking accountability. I would consider that as a form of taking accountability. You're so open.
That's delivering
open
news.
about this. That
Maybe
is
it's
a
the
form
first
of
step
taking
towards accountability.
Thank you.
Maybe it's
It
the
is.
first
It's the
step.
Ooh, okay, here we go.
Hi, I'm Gen, and I explore social and controversial issues through both sides. And today I'll be moderating this middle ground episode of Cheaters versus Cheated On. We'll be exploring topics such as the personal experiences of people cheating, the emotional toll that it takes on relationships, and why exactly do people cheat. The first prompt is, I would forgive my partner if they cheated on me. Agreeers, please step forward.
Okay, I would forgive my partner if they cheated on me. It really depends. It really depends on the situation. I would have to know the circumstances of the cheating, what kind of cheating it was, because we're going to get into a discussion throughout this episode about emotional cheating versus like sexual cheating. There would have to be a very, very long conversation about all the inner workings and the details. Am I capable of forgiving somebody who's cheated in a relationship? Absolutely. I think I'm capable of it given, a particular set of circumstances. But there would definitely be instances in which the relationship would not continue. And I think you can extend forgiveness to somebody whilst also saying, I'm not going to be in a relationship with you anymore. This is not a healthy dynamic for me. What do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, 100%. You can forgive someone, and I think you probably should forgive people no matter what for your own sake, so that you're not holding on to bitterness and resentment and letting that person win effectively or control you or let your hurt control you. But that's different from saying that I would reconcile with someone or continue to be in a relationship with someone after they've broken my trust in that way. So I think it's important to distinguish between those two. But generally speaking, I think, forgiveness is something that you will be better off for in the long run, in allowing yourself to extend that release to someone else, even if they don't necessarily deserve it, just for your own sake.
Yeah, and I think so often cheating is not even about you or your part in the relationship. It's a totally separate thing that ends up happening and has everything to do with the person who committed the act of cheating and not much to do with you at all. So from that standpoint, I'm like, okay, yeah, we can forgive, move on.
I feel like from the side of being cheated on, I think the biggest thing to understand is that forgiveness is something that everybody does deserve. I think that once we get into the discussion of why somebody cheated, we can really understand whether or not that person is sympathetic and whether or not that person is somebody that you want to keep around in your life. But I think forgiveness and keeping them in that same relationship are not synonymous. They go separately.
I completely agree. However, I do think that forgiveness is something that we give to ourselves, not necessarily somebody else. So in the event that my husband cheats on me, I would be giving him forgiveness so that I could set myself free from any hostility or anger that I may hold on to in the event
I think it should.
I get what she's saying, but the forgiveness, you are forgiving the person for the action. I think she's saying I use forgiveness as a pathway to make myself feel better and to have myself go about life, but you still are extending forgiveness to the other person.
Benefit both sides in that sense. Now, whether that other person takes it and uses it to their benefit, you can't control that, and it shouldn't be up to you to try and push that. But yes, also making sure that that forgiveness is for yourself as well, so you can move forward, whether it be with that person or alone, and not take that burden on to the next relationship if that relationship doesn't work out.
I completely agree. And I forgive because I've been forgiven. So, and I'm a Christian, so I believe in forgiveness. I believe that we should forgive people because we have been forgiven.
You know, you can have short-term forgiveness and long-term forgiveness. And, you know, it's like, are you addressing the root of the issue? And really, if you're truly forgiving, and forgiveness is something that comes with maturity and with life experience, it's the whole circle of forgiveness. You get so much and you release the other person and yourself from anything, and then you can move forward from that point.
One thing that is interesting, though, is that there are 3 people from the cheater side who have sat down, but only 1 on the cheated on.
That is interesting.
I guess I'd be curious to hear more so about your guys' experiences, because it seems like in this instance you were cheated on.
Yes.
So I cheated on him.
Yes.
Ooh,
and
this is interesting. You know what? You have to grow and do a lot as a couple in order to put this on a main stage experience like Jubilee and allow other people to get a view into your relationship when this dynamic has occurred. It's very interesting that she's shown up here and she cheated on him. Wow.
Forgave me. But I guess I'll let you explain that.
Forgiveness is a step-by-step process. It's not anything that does happen instant. And for us, that was something that we did step by step. And as you said, getting down to the root of it was a big thing, to where all questions have been answered, all things that were left up to an idle mind are no longer there. And so by getting down to the root of it, I can also figure out, okay, were there some areas that as a husband, I did not uphold what I needed to be? It might have been that you might have felt emotionally you couldn't feel like you can come to me.
So do you feel like you have equal blame in the cheating that occurred?
Can I interrupt? I think that bringing...
Can you interrupt? What do you mean, can you interrupt a question about his personal experience of being cheated on? Oh, Miss Girl. Well, we're gonna have problems with this lady.
The conversation to the concept of blame, I think you actually kind of have to understand the purpose of blame. And I think that the purpose of blame is to shift responsibility. When I have conversations around cheating, I really like to steer clear of the blame game, because the truth is, like, we all played a part. Society.
You know what? I can understand from a perspective what she's saying, but I think it is really important to get down to the root of things and not blame. I think carries a very negative connotation, but what it really is a conversation about actions, about responsibility, and about accountability. And you can have a conversation surrounding blame or accountability or responsibility or whatever you want to call it, and it doesn't have to be this hate-filled, looking down on somebody experience to discuss those things. And within the confines of a marriage where you have somebody who's cheated and he's arguing, well, maybe there were things that I didn't do as a husband that led to that cheating, it is kind of important to get down to the blame, if that's what we want to call it, to figure out what dynamic brought about the unhealthy situation that is cheating on your partner. Now, big shout out to him for saying, you know what? I could be, super upset at you, and maybe he was at the moment, and he worked through it and it led him to forgiveness. But good on him to look inward at himself and say, well, maybe there is some way, shape, or form that I'm responsible for this, or some expectation that I didn't live up to that led to your cheating. You have to have a very strong mind to experience something like that at the hands of another person and then look inward at yourself. But that's not to say that he shouldn't look at her and look at the actions that she committed and reconcile that and have a conversation about that. And maybe it is that he didn't do anything and she just ended up cheating. There's so many different things that you could discuss when a situation like this occurs.
Included.
Can we have the disagreeers please step forward?
Okay, disagreeers.
Just to go back to kind of the imbalance that we saw there, I'd be curious to hear from the cheated on group first.
There's a few things I heard that I found interesting. One, you said about not using the blame game, and then also when you said about you felt like you may have had something to do with, not being a husband or whatever it may be. And those are things I kind of disagree with in that, like, I know most of us walk with good intentions in life, right? We're all trying to be a good person, yes? Mm-hmm. Or maybe not. But at the most part, you start off that way, right? But I guess the way I live my life, I don't give anybody any excuse to do something wrong to me. So if you do something wrong to me, you have to kind of go out of your way to do that. And this idea that you start saying, well, it must have been something I did. It actually might not have been. It might have been just the other person wasn't where you were at as a human being. And also the other thing I heard was about, forgiving for yourself. I've never understood that statement. They did something wrong, I'm just gonna move on. I'm not gonna hold any ill will to you, it just happened.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead.
So I actually agree with the two things you said about the forgiveness. I have never understood that either. I just feel like, for me, if it works for other people, that's great. I actually have found healing in not forgiving people. And I think there's a difference. I think I choose not to forgive them, and then eventually I am indifferent towards them, is what I'm saying. I think there's a difference between not forgiving someone and hating someone.
And I think most of that narrative comes from usually the person who cheated, saying, you forgive for yourself, or like, you never hear it coming from the actual person who got cheated on. And again, to that point, it seems it's always connected to, if you don't forgive, you're holding on to some ill will. No, I just don't think about it. It's done, and I'll just move on with life.
At least for me, I think that it comes back around to honesty. I mean, any of us that were cheated on, I don't think it's any of our responsibility that our partner chose to be dishonest with us about anything. Because even if you assume that, it was something you did, maybe you weren't being open enough, or maybe the conversation wasn't happening that needed to happen, it's still not your responsibility fully, I don't think. You can't force anyone to be faithful or to be honest or to...
I guess what they're saying is, I'm not going to forgive you, but I'm also not going to hold a grudge. So at the end of the day, both sides of the conversation are letting go. The people who forgive you have, accepted that that's what you've done. They've extended forgiveness towards you. They're letting it go. And he's saying, I'm not going to forgive you because you did something pretty shit. And I'm just going to, acknowledge that that's what you did. And I'm going to move on with my life. I would argue, though, that it's like, you might as well forgive that person. I don't know why you wouldn't extend the forgiveness. I always think, just trust people to be who they're going to be and do what they're going to do. And you can only exercise control over yourself, and the things outside of your control, if people are making bad decisions, it's going to come to impact them in some way, shape, or form, and that's none of my responsibility. It's nothing for me to worry about. I forgive you because that horrible thing that you did has put you in a much worse position than it's put me in. My integrity still remains intact. My personhood still remains intact. You just go on about your business, leading your life the way that you see fit, and I wish you all the best. But that's essentially what he's saying too. He's just saying, I'm not going to extend that olive branch of forgiveness to the person. I'm just going to let them go on and do what they're going to do.
Be true.
And that's the interesting part, that somebody gets cheated on, thinks, well, what did I do? Like, they should never think that.
With the early part of our marriage.
Okay, gotta pause again. He said, if you get cheated on, you should never think, what did I do? I disagree with that. And here's why. It's always good to take stock of the situation. I can look at the situation and go, they definitely did something worse, or they did something wrong, but let me look inside myself and figure out if there's anything that I could have done to have this not happen, if there's any way in which I contributed to the conversation. A lot of couples have breakdowns in communication, or very little things lead to cheating and affairs, and that is partially the responsibility of the person that got cheated on, if we're being honest with ourselves. And if you don't take stock of the situation and see, what little pieces of this pie am I responsible for, you're just going to hop into another relationship where you get cheated on. I've been listening a lot to these two therapists. I believe their names are Julie and John Gottman. They're very popular relationship therapists who study love. They were recently on the Diary of a CEO podcast, which you guys, I urge you to check out. But they talked about how relationships degrade, and over time it's just very, very small things. And in relationships we make bids for connection, is what they call them, where you say, hey, I read a really good book today, or I had a hard time at work today, or oh, look at that flower, it's really pretty. And your partner can just miss these bids for connection. And they did a study about which relationships end up being successful and which ones end up degrading, and it really is about small things that accumulate over time. And those small things that suddenly, like wear you down, lead to things like cheating and affairs. So if you do get cheated on, probably good to take inventory really quick and see if there's anything wrong that I've done in this relationship, because odds are there is something that you've done wrong. And that's not to place the blame on you. It's just to say, I should do some inward looking and then move on with my life and hopefully be in a better, healthier state for the next relationship that I jump into.
Yeah, just one thing I would add to that is the other thing to reflect on. It's not necessarily what I did wrong in the relationship, but was I a poor judge of character going into this relationship? Yep. And why did I not see this coming? And that is something that I think is often missed. And like when I think about being a parent, the thing that terrifies me most in the world is like, I want to make sure that I raise my daughter to be a good judge of character, so that whoever, and son, but especially daughter, so that whoever she ends up with, whoever she opens her heart to, is someone who is deserving of it. Because it's so easy, especially in today's culture, especially with just how emotions are, with how life is, that you open up your heart to the wrong person and end up making a commitment to them, or getting so emotionally invested that you become blind to red flags. And that's the part where I feel like, for your own sake, again, having nothing to do with justifying the other person's behavior with regard to breaking the commitment that they made to you in the relationship, you should, for your own sake, reflect on your ability to judge character and whether or not you could see this coming. And it may be that you were completely blindsided and there was nothing you could have done differently, or nothing you could have seen coming. And that, but be that as it may, it still, behooves us to be conscious of pitfalls that could come up in a relationship, and to be, as wise as we possibly can going into relationships, and really, really making sure that as best as we can, we're vetting that person before you find yourself in a situation where they have cheated on you.
And I cannot stress this enough. Taking accountability for your actions does in no way excuse the fact that this person has betrayed you. It's not a way to say, oh, well, I guess I deserved it, or I guess what they did was right. It's just to say you need to recognize patterns within your relationships, the way that you communicate, that lead to ill outcomes on both parts of the relationship and both people involved in the relationship. And hopefully, moving forward, you have a healthier dynamic.
What I thought a husband was, I go out, I make the check, and I come home and have sex. I'm just being completely honest. I didn't see nothing else emotional that I needed to bring to the table. So that does not make an excuse for somebody to go out and do something. Yes, we should go ahead and have communication. We should try to learn how to grow within this. But I feel like that was the importance of trying to figure out, where did I have any type of flaw as a husband? Because even if we would have decided we're not going to work it out, I don't want to go and keep recreating the same type of marriage.
I just want to say, I think it's...
There you go. He said it better than I did. From the perspective of being in a relationship where he was cheated on, he said, oh, wait a second. I thought marriage was, I go work, I make money, and then I bang my wife, essentially. And she obviously was not vibing with that. She went out and probably found an emotional connection with another man. No excuse for her going out and finding an emotional connection with another man. She should have came to her husband and said that. But also, he was doing something that is not healthy in a relationship, and he ended up learning a lesson. Now, he decided to stay. That's totally up to him, but there you go.
It's really interesting that you're the only person from the cheated on, and I was the only person from the cheated side. And speaking from my personal experience, because my partner also used to be a cheater, and we came together, and maybe part of it is just us growing up, or we committed to each other, but we consciously made the decision to grow together, grow separately. And so I think if he were to cheat on me, I would not be able to forgive that, because it's like, well, we promised each other this growth, and we've put all, it would be less about the cheating itself, I think, for me, and more about the breaking the promise of the growth that we've made. And it's like, well, how am I supposed to trust you now?
For my specific experience, it was more of a physical thing. I was a virgin, and I wasn't ready to do that yet.
and the guy I was with was a couple years older than me, and he went out and did that, and I could never forgive him because the physical thing was something that we could never fix. I wasn't gonna have sex with him, you know? So forgiveness for me was very hard because there was nothing to work on for me. So there was nothing to improve that relationship, so it was over.
I'm just curious, if he had, I have no idea what your relationship was like.
Go for it.
If he had come to you and said, I love you, I care about you, this is something that I really need, how would you feel about like, you know, allowing him to go out and do that, or would you like, we should just break up then?
Totally. I mean, I think that I was getting to the point of potentially being ready. But after he did that with someone else, then I was like, okay, no. And I literally did not speak to a man for like 3-4 years. Like, it was a very emotionally traumatizing for me. I was only 16.
Yikes, very difficult situation to be in. Yeah, there are sometimes problems that are not solvable given the two different perspectives you have in a relationship. If that's something that he has dictated is a need for him and that is something that you cannot fulfill and he's not willing to wait for that, you're not with the right person and you should move on. It sounds like he wasn't very forthcoming with that information though. So that's just an unfortunate deception to be a part of. And you have to think about too, when somebody cheats on you, and especially if they're not like letting you in on that information or anything like that, that's a health risk when they're going out and engaging with other people and then coming back from you. So that's something else that they're not considering. That's a really devastating thing to go through, especially that young. So I really do feel for her. It sounds like they were not in a proper space to be in a relationship. Now we're gonna skip the better help ad. I'm so over these better help ad. Okay, emotional cheating is worse than physical cheating. Let's see. I agree. I do think there's gonna be a split amongst men and women, I think, for the most part on this subject. You guys can let me know down below. I think by and large, not always, women find emotional cheating to be worse than physical cheating, and then men find physical cheating to be worse than emotional cheating. I can understand from a base desire level why a man would want to go out and engage with new people or want something new or sleep with somebody, and I think a lot of men can't sleep with people without building an emotional connection. But if you go out and create like an emotional connection with a coworker or a friend or somebody that you're turning to express your feelings or deeper things that you're thinking about in life instead of your partner, that is way worse for me. Both bad, but the emotional is worse for me. Taylor?
Yeah, they're both different forms of betrayal, and I think both are effectively just lies and breaches of trust. And so I don't place more weight necessarily on one than the other personally. And we did do a poll separated by gender here in the chat, and it looks like females are saying they agree that emotional cheating is worse, a little bit more, almost a 2-to-1 ratio, and the males are saying disagree, just a little bit more skewing that way. So interesting as you predicted.
Yeah, I just don't like, what do you mean you're going and telling her about your difficult day at work, or you guys are bonding over stuff, or you guys are going on dates and doing things together? Way worse for me if you have an emotional connection or you're like building a love-based relationship with somebody than if you are just, you know, doing something else. Okay. Who agrees?
Worse. I've been cheated on twice in the past year. The first was physical, the second was emotional. And to me, well, I don't want to bring it back to Jillian while she's standing over there, but we were talking about like the concept of virginity, and she was only 16. Like the physical cheating aspect, I was cheated on because I wasn't, I suppose, being sexual enough, despite the communication that we had going on. I was just kind of being lied to the whole time. But emotionally, for me, that's what relationships are built on. So lying about something like that, or like having someone else on the side that you're giving those parts of you to, when I truly just want to like know the inner depths of like your being, because we are in a relationship, it's just worse to me.
You hesitated to come up.
Oh, hesitated to come up because I think the word worse is like, it implies that there is a level of significance to whether you act on it or not. And I think ultimately cheating comes down to managing your own thought life. And as far as what you said about you not meeting his physical needs, I'd like to...
It was her, but yeah.
Oh, her,
same,
sorry?
You're good, same deal.
I'd love to shirk that off of you, because what somebody else does in life is a reflection of them, not a reflection of you. So like as far as the, oh, I didn't meet physical needs of my partner, I think you can't really say that because if they weren't vocal about it, right?
Absolutely, which is like, that was the main reason and one of the only reasons that we broke up, and I called it off, and I was still never apologized to. It was never acknowledged that it even happened.
Yeah.
Because that betrayal was so tangent, it was a lot easier for me to let go of it. But having like a deep emotional connection with someone, I like tried again with an ex, and then I ended up getting emotionally cheated on. I had much more of a deeper investment in the character of that person, and I cared very deeply about where we were going in life and how we were growing together, and to sort of have that growth cut off, you know, is something different entirely. I do like what you said though about using the word worse and like how
there's like a level of significance to betrayal, whether it's actually executed with your body or not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for some people it's subjective. For some people there is a worse, and for some people there is a better. I don't know why. I guess for her, she's stating that that's her personal view on it, but I feel like she's therapizing the question.
I think that
it's still a betrayal.
Yeah, it's still a betrayal, right?
So I have a long history of cheating, unfortunately, and I have both physically cheated and emotionally cheated. The way my various partners responded was different. I don't think that it's fair to say one is worse than the other.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because at first I was standing back there, I'm like, physical has to be worse, but then I'm like, everybody has a different standard or a different experience.
Yeah.
I can't say what's worse for somebody else, what maybe for me. The other thing is, I don't understand, I'm not sure I even know what emotional cheating actually is.
That's what
I'm sitting there, what is emotional cheating?
What that means at all.
So emotional cheating, like when, let's say, you're going to someone and talking to them about the problems in your relationship, and they're offering that advice, they're offering you comfort.
They're giving you everything that you want.
Yeah, that you're desiring at that point. When you're actually supposed to be going to your spouse or to the person that you're with.
I agree with you, but I would take that a step further and say you can emotionally cheat and like they not know about your spouse or your partner. Like it's about having a relation, like you're talking to them with the way you talk to your partner. Because I have my my high school sweetheart. I was in love with someone else. I was in love with two people at the same time. It was very complicated. But before anything ever physically happened, I was emotionally cheating on my boyfriend at the time, because I was talking to this guy like he was my boyfriend too, even though we weren't together. You know, and I know people who have divorced, who have left their marriages because it was like, well, I've fallen in love with someone else, even though we've never done anything physical.
And a lot of people are out there emotionally cheating. I think it's happening a lot more than anybody would know, with their friends, with their coworkers. Y'all have heard the whole like work wife, work husband thing that people say all this time. When you're spending, 8 hours a day with somebody else all day, a lot of people fall into the trap of emotionally cheating, and it is a simulated relationship where you're not crossing the boundary of, sexual interaction with that person, but there's very much an emotional investment that, if you were looking at it from the outside, looks like a relationship, looks like you guys are dating.
As by that same token, you can also have like a one-night stand and it be purely physical and not emotional cheating at all.
It's funny because like it seemed like you're describing when you're trying to get to know somebody because you want to date them. So that's why it's kind of like really.
Let me help you.
Yeah, it's kind of like confusing me.
Emotional cheating begins when you have a relationship with somebody that your partner is not aware of.
Okay.
And
a romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I think lots of things. I look at lots of people. I expect that whoever I'm with is thinking whatever they're thinking while they're looking at people. And relationships that we all have with each other, for me, like my girlfriends and I've been cheated on and cheated, and it's all complex and complicated and based on a case-per-case basis, until they take action, some kind of action where they're physically engaging with another person. They're not cheating on me as far as I'm concerned, because they're living life as a human being and they're just feeling and thinking and fantasizing and doing all the things that we all do because we're human beings, and that's what we do.
And that's how you feel.
That's how I feel about it. That's why I said it about 3 or 4 times.
As someone who has
That's why I said it about 3 or 4 times. That is my own personal opinion. Yeah, I do think a lot of guys feel that way. A lot of people feel that way, but I think men in particular will say, yeah, did you kiss him? No? Did you sleep with him? No? Okay, then you didn't cheat and we're good. But I think what he's talking about, at least from my perspective, the emotional is so much worse. And we all have thoughts, right? I'm sure we all find different people attractive, and we can acknowledge that we are having those thoughts. It's the action of acting on them, and particularly with emotional cheating, acting on them in a way where it feels like you're lining up your next relationship or trying to fill in the gaps of your current relationship, that where it stings a little bit more than just a guy going and having a one-night stand with a girl that he cares nothing for. You know what I mean?
And I think when you enter into like an exclusive relationship with somebody, part of that commitment is not just that I won't engage physically with other people, but it's that, you have my heart and only you. And there's sort of a sacredness to that. That means that connection is to the exclusion of connections with other people. So being reckless with that, or being, willing to open your heart to other people in that very like intimate way, is to me like that is where it becomes basically cheating, or at least extremely unwise and lacking discretion when you are doing so with the person that that you may have the propensity to also be attracted to or have anything like that. And just the way that this other guy also kind of said, like, well, that's just being human. We're all human. We fantasize, we think, we act, we're out there in the world. And there's truth to that like the desire to form emotional bonds with people other than your committed significant other is going to emerge. The desire to form physical bonds with people who are other than your committed significant other are bound to manifest themselves. But the way he's talking about it signals to me that's he's justifying indulging those and entertaining those sentiments and allowing them to kind of grow and fester, and completely lacking in any amount of discipline or willpower to just say, I'm not going to, because of the sacredness of the commitment that I've entered into, I'm not going to allow those little baby thoughts to grow into anything that can actually take root in my heart. And I've heard this metaphor of your heart being like a garden. You constantly have to be tilling out these negative things, and this idea that just because something emerges out of you naturally, therefore it is okay to allow that to stay and develop, I think is just a falsehood, and a very common falsehood in modern times, in modern culture. And it's one that's very detrimental, because if you allow that to go to its logical conclusion, it's going to interfere with your relationships and your happiness.
Yeah, 100%. If we were all just following the thoughts that like sparked naturally for us, we'd be sitting in bed, eating junk food, doing drugs, all these different things that are not necessarily helpful for us. It's about acknowledging thoughts, acknowledging where they come from, and then taking like a comprehensive view on whether or not they should be acted on. I remember this guy called into some radio show the other day. It was like, I'm in a 35-year marriage with my wife, and this new girl just started at my work, and I have a crush on this girl. And my marriage with my wife is beautiful, wonderful, 35 years deep, but I don't know about what to do about this new crush that I'm developing on this girl. And the guy's like, distance yourself. What do you mean? Like, get out of the situation that is bringing about these thoughts that you feel the need to act on, especially if you're acknowledging that your 35-year relationship with your wife is a wonderful, beautiful thing. You should be able to acknowledge the thoughts that you're having, this crush that may be developing, and nip it in the bud, not by stopping yourself from thinking about it, because it's very difficult to just take thoughts out of your brain, but by removing yourself from the situation in whatever way you can in order to protect something that you've built over time. And that's what we all should do. You can all acknowledge that people are attractive, or that, if I wasn't in a relationship, that guy'd be cute or whatever. Don't act on it, baby girl.
Cheated. Did you feel, if you've ever felt some type of way, whether it be guilt or anything, did you feel worse about emotionally cheating or physically cheating?
I've never emotionally cheated. I'm a human being and I live my life. And if I think something, or I have a relationship with her where I'm telling her about my relationship and I'm falling in love with her, that's okay. I can feel that. But until I do something about it, I haven't cheated. I haven't done anything to that my partner.
I've been cheated on.
See, that's like what I would say would be often a stereotypical male view. He doesn't even believe in the concept of emotionally cheating. He just thinks that that's a human experience. And, again, you can give credence to it. I understand the thought process and where he's coming from. But by that same token, you could be like, my sexual urges come very natural to me, and it's just a human thing to want to engage with multiple people, and I'm a man, and therefore I don't believe in the physical aspect of cheating. There's a line that crosses with both emotion and sexuality where it becomes a betrayal, and that's based on the contract that you've entered in your relationship. And for everybody, that's going to be different. I'm watching your guys' stuff in the live chat, and you're saying, texting a girl isn't cheating, and others are saying, absolutely, it's cheating. If you even flirt with the girl, it's cheating, or if you flirt with the guy, it's cheating. You all have developed your own subjective lines for what cheating means for you, and you hope that when you enter a relationship, there is a conversation and an understanding of what those lines are, and for everybody, it's going to be different. There are people out there who say, go off and sleep with somebody else. I don't care, but you better not talk to them about your day. There are people who say, you can have as many girlfriends as you want or as many boyfriends as you want, but if you sleep with any of them, we're over. So everybody has different lines that they draw, and you hope to find a partner that agrees with your lines.
On multiple times, so it's just like, and it's always been like a physical thing, and it's really hurt me, and that's why I think the physical is worse for me personally than maybe the emotional would be, but I can totally see both sides because emotional is difficult too. But for me, the thing that sets my romantic relationship apart from a best friendship is the intimate, physical stuff. For me, I can have tight relationships with other guys, but I'm not going to go sleep with them because I'm not romantically involved.
Oh, I'm still very close with my high school sweetheart.
Totally.
We're very good friends.
Yes, and I have exes too that I can be like, we're chill, but I'm not gonna go hook up with you in the car, you know what I mean?
Right, and we have that trust. Like I said, I think at the end of the day, it's situational. It's for some people, emotional cheating might be worse. For some people, physical cheating might be worse. For some people, it's the same.
Yeah. I'd be like, nah, you're not hanging out with your ex. I'm so sorry. It's giving Chelsea and Jimmy from Love is Blind season 6, where they're both hanging out with people that they've slept with. Absolutely not. You will not be doing that. Please. Especially from the serial cheater. I'm not vibing with that. We're gonna skip this next prompt and go to, it's okay to express attention to others while in a relationship. Okay.
In a relationship.
It's okay to express attraction to others while in a relationship. Yeah, just don't act on it. Me and my boyfriend, if we go out to eat or we're walking the street or whatever, and we see somebody who's attractive, guy or girl, we'll be like, wow, it's just an attractive woman, or wow, it's an attractive guy. They could be a model, whatever. That expression of attraction is not an expression of, I want to go date that person or get to know them or get their number. And we all have these thoughts that occur in our brain, whether we admit it or not. So you might as well. And there's actually something to be said for the success of relationships where you can express that in conversation to where it's not a threatening discussion or a passing thought to be able to share. And it's found that couples that are able to do that whilst acknowledging that they're not wanting to act on those thoughts end up having a more successful, fruitful relationships. So yeah, it's okay to express attraction. It doesn't mean you want to sleep with them.
Yeah, I mean, I basically had the same sentiment. I know my wife's man crush or whatever, celebrity crush would have been either Justin Timberlake, which now she says he's older looking and it's kind of sad, but him and Michael B. Jordan. She knows mine are probably Kate Beckinsale, Liv Tyler, whatever. I'm kind of dating myself with those. But, it's all fun, innocent stuff, and it's just acknowledging, this is an attractive human being, like the same way we could acknowledge a flower is pretty. Yeah. But where it becomes something that you're obsessive with, or that it's actually something that is dwelling in your thoughts, or it's a problem significant enough to where you'd have to I don't know, confess that you're dealing with this to a partner, that's where it gets to be a little weird. But as long as it's on that surface level, innocent stuff, it's fine in my opinion.
Yeah, but mind you, there are some people who simply cannot handle that. There are some people who, if you even utter that you're attracted to somebody or you find them beautiful, you could say Megan Fox looks really good in the Transformers film. They're like, what did you just say about Megan Fox? And I don't look like her and blah, blah. It's like, okay, maybe for those people, you don't need to mention it. And again, that's part of your contract in a relationship, that hopefully you discuss these things and it's made clear what people are comfortable and uncomfortable with.
Speaking of Chelsea and Jimmy, by the way,
yes, I know.
From Love is Blind,
my
who claimed
gosh.
that she looks like Megan Fox, but then she ended up being, obviously didn't really look like Megan Fox, but also was extremely insecure about Jimmy, and anytime he was like around other girls or talked about other girls or other girls were mentioned in his presence, she's like, you think she's hot, don't you? Blah, blah, blah. And that's where that insecurity we're talking about kicks in.
Yeah, and I would like challenge people who are dealing with that insecurity to really try to like work on it and allow your partner to be comfortable expressing the thoughts. It will make your relationship healthier. It will make you healthier. And there's nothing like sexier or like more attractive than you feeling confident in yourself, to where that's not a threatening thing to hear. Jimmy should have known that about Chelsea, that he could not have said, what did he say? 80 is stacked. Oh gosh. Fool's game. A fool's game he was playing. But I digress. You should be able to express these things with respect, right? Respectfully. It doesn't have to be something like heinous that you say about a person that you see walking by.
Cheated on section. I think that it is okay, because personally for me, again, like talking about how I think that relationships are built on honesty and communication, I would rather know that you have attraction to someone than you just keep that on the back burner and not tell me. Like, let me know. Like, let me know. Attraction is human. Love is only human. Desire is human. I have not cheated on anyone. I have absolutely no plans to cheat on anyone. But like, if I found someone attractive, I would tell my partner. My current girlfriend is amazing, and I would hope that she would feel open in telling me that as well. And I like to open a lot of my conversation. I mean, a lot of my relationships with that conversation, and just like be like, hey, can you just like let me know if anything goes that way?
Well, I love what you just said, because it really speaks volumes to your individual security in revealing your authentic self inside of your relationship. So well done, you. I also think that if we have...
I gotta be real with y'all, I don't like this woman. I don't like the vibe that this like counselor, therapist, unhired counselor and therapist, by the way, vibe that she gives off. And she's not giving good advice, which is concerning. If she is an actual therapist that people are paying like an hourly rate to see, we should all be concerned. And this is why it's very important, if you go to therapy, that you have the right therapist, because this girl's giving real bad advice.
Have an innate response to something that we see, and we actually don't give voice to it. We're ultimately putting ourselves in a place of denial. And denial is not just a river in Egypt. And what it ends up doing is you start suppressing yourself and making yourself smaller for the comfort of having your relationship, which then means your relationship becomes the goal rather than you being an individual who can be seen, valued, and understood inside of a relationship.
You know, me and my partner have shared these things, but like
it's not always a suppression of self to not be able to utter out loud that like somebody is attractive. And again, if you found a partner that didn't like that and you said, you know what, for your sake, I'm not going to do that for you. There's all little concessions that we make for our partner that don't ultimately lead to the suppression of our authentic self, as she's like trying to state in this. It's just all about what's okay for certain people and what you're willing to deal with. If that's not something you're willing to deal with in a relationship and that's what your partner is asking for, then you move on and you find another partner and you find somebody who's more compatible.
So have struggled with my own insecurities, and so he always makes sure to add in like, but like you know. So I think it depends on who it is, but I think I agree that yes, it is obviously healthier to give voice, because then of course, like if I don't know, let's say my partner finds someone attractive and I catch him looking, and then I'm like, why are you know what I mean? And so then I might get suspicious. Is like, why have you not said anything to me?
But wouldn't you say that your insecurities are for you to manage, not your partner?
Oh yeah. No, yeah. No, I mean that's
so
my
him
issue.
or her changing their behavior because of your insecurities would lead them to a place of inauthenticity.
Oh, I want to make it very clear. I didn't ask him to do that.
Oh, okay,
That just comes from him. And maybe it comes from him because he knows I've struggled with insecurities, but I haven't said to him, and you need to do this. That's not, it's just him.
Yeah.
She just wants everybody to live in their most like authentic, hedonistic, throw everything out into the world way possible, which I if anything, yeah, it's authentic, but that doesn't mean that it's going to lead to healthy outcomes. And if you can't find a partner that's willing to help you with your insecurities, then what are you looking for a partner for if they're not enriching your life and like helping you down a path to become a healthier person? And sometimes in order to help somebody with their insecurities, you need to create a safe environment for them to where you can then get to a normal. It may be normal to express attraction, but if somebody's not yet comfortable with that, you need to respect that in order to usher your relationship into a place where they can be comfortable with that. And they need to be able to trust you and feel safe around you in order to bring about that reality. So her throwing, of course, your insecurities at the end of the day are about you, and it's something that you should deal with. But if you're not getting a partner, especially a romantic partner, who's willing to help you through those insecurities, then what are you dating for? It's just kind of like a worthless endeavor.
Expressing himself.
You know, for me, it's like when I start a relationship, I want communication. You know, and it's very important that we're able to talk with each other about everything, because we're two human beings who have feelings, and unless you act on those feelings, you know, and sometimes I think talking about it can keep you from acting on it as well. You know, all that openness can keep things, you know, I think it can help.
Well, the partner that physically cheated on me, I don't know if she's fully polyamorous, but that's sort of where she tends to lean. And I knew that going in, but she was not being real with me about it. So like, I would rather you come tell me when you find someone attractive and we discuss the possibility of even trying that than you to just go behind my back and not do that. Because I don't think that I'm poly, but like, I would rather have honesty and communication, openness.
And that is cheating. I think if somebody is polyamorous and they're not honest,
about it,
that is absolutely.
So yeah, we
there
started
has
off
to be
with that.
communication. Because I am queer, I often will find like women and non-binary people attractive, and my partner is a male, and he's very okay with that, and not in like a gross, creepy way, but like he understands that like I'm also going to be attracted to like these other genders, and so us discussing, you know, who we find attractive is a very natural part of the relationship.
Yeah, it's like discussing, you know, day-to-day life, I think.
And I reassure him too. I'm always like, you're the best.
I want to hear from the disagreeers. It is not okay to express attraction to others while in a relationship.
I personally don't believe that there should be any attraction to anyone, while especially for marriage. Speaking on marriage, we believe in monogamy. We believe in one, you know, man and wife, and I do believe that we should not have any type of attraction to anyone. It leads to problems, and it absolutely can lead to, you know, even cheating. Yeah.
Be so for real right now. She's saying we shouldn't have attraction for other people whilst in a relationship, but she cheated on her husband. So how does that make sense? And she's saying we should not have any. Maybe she's confused about what they mean by attraction. I think she's maybe interpreting it as something that you act on, but she had attraction for somebody else whilst being in a relationship and being in a marriage. Therefore, you know, she knows that exists, and she knows that is a very real reality within a marriage. I don't know if is she confused?
If you are feeling that way in your relationship, then obviously that does need to be expressed. And that tells a lot about, you know, hey, there's something deeper going on in your relationship that needs to be fixed.
So you're saying like you walk down the street, you've never seen you know, an attractive man and been like, oh, like that man's hot. Never. I don't
look at other men and think that, you know, I can't do that. Especially being a Christian, I can't look at other men and say like, oh, that man is, you know, if I can't be sexually, I'm not sexually attracted. Is it because you're a Christian,
or is it because you're you?
Okay, she's getting, this therapist lady is getting on the wrong track here. Let's you know, back it up like a talk truck to what she just said. She said, I cannot look at another man and think those things because, you know, I'm a Christian, because I'm in marriage. I think what she did was she made a mistake within her marriage and she cheated on her husband. Now she's overcorrecting for that mistake by saying, I don't feel attraction for any other men. I don't look at any other men. And we know that that's not true. She would look at a man and even subconsciously, you know, be aware of whether or not that man is attractive. It's just a fact. It's a fact of human existence. If I show you a picture of America's Next Top Model or whatever, whether or not you want to engage in anything with that man, you can acknowledge when somebody has an attractive face. I would hope that she would be able to acknowledge when another woman is also attractive, but she's overcorrecting, I think, for the fact that she cheated and is saying, I don't even look at other men. I can't acknowledge whether or not another man is attractive. It's antithetical to my Christian values. When in reality, what she's learned is I'm going to suppress the things that I'm thinking and feeling because of the mistake I made, which is probably an unhealthy overcorrection for what you've done. Now, your husband might not be comfortable with you expressing that out loud because of what you did, but that doesn't mean that those thoughts still don't occur in your brain as you're moving throughout the world.
Yeah, just to chime in a little bit from like a Christian perspective, since that's what she's appealing to or saying that's why she doesn't feel these things. I mean, as far as I know, that's not really what Christianity teaches. There is one of the famous teachings of Jesus. He says, like, you know, you've heard it said, don't commit adultery, but I say to you, if you even look at someone with lustful intent, then you've basically committed adultery in your heart. But the point he's making is not that like Christians shouldn't feel impulses. The point he's making is that it is a matter of the heart and not the law. And so people usually are like, well, have you cheated if you did X, Y, Z? And how close to that line can I get? Where Jesus is kind of turning that around on its head and saying, like, you got to go deeper and think about the intentions of your heart. And maybe, like I was talking about before, be rooting out the germination of some of these bad intentions or lustful intentions before they manifest themselves into any kind of action. So we should be going further back and looking at how it's like, how committed can I be? How sacred can I treat my commitment that I've made in my relationship? Not so much, you know, just where's the line and at what point do I actually cross it? And so it's weird to me too, just listening to some of these people saying like, well, if I felt the attraction to someone, I'd have to tell my partner, or if I saw someone on the street, I'd have to tell. Like, if you're at the point where you see someone on the street and you feel like you need to like tell them, it strikes me as like something's you're taking your intuitions, you're taking the desires that are manifesting out of you too seriously. It should just be like a passing, like, okay, that's an attractive person. I can acknowledge that. I live in reality. I don't need to deny that as a Christian, suppress it, pretend like that doesn't exist. But also, I don't need to think that that's like an essential part of who I am. I don't need to indulge on that thought or revel on it or fantasize about that person. I just can, yes, acknowledge that reality and then move on with my day. And sometimes if you're like conscious, for example, of your partner's insecurity, then I would say it's not even worth dignifying that impulse with words most of the time, because then you're just validating it a little bit. You're making it that much more real, when in reality it should be something so passing that it's just, okay, let's move on. I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm also not even going to say anything about it because it's not something that I'm dwelling on. If you feel the need to say something about it, I feel like that's because you are putting too much weight in your impulses and dwelling on them too much.
Yeah, it's just like circumstantial, I guess, and like what you're comfortable with, what your personality's like, what your dynamic is. I could see it going a lot of different ways. Like somebody who is really harboring thoughts of like cheating and attraction and is grappling with it, they're going to be like, oh, babe, I found that guy attractive, and like let you know, and it's actually out of like an insecurity of action. But then there's like, I don't know, if I'm walking down the street and I see a girl who like clearly goes to the gym like 6 days a week, she's stacked, she's gorgeous, whatever, I'll be like, that girl's hot. Like, that's it. You just be like, oh, that girl's so attractive, you just have to say it. Or the same thing for a guy that's like super attractive or clearly works on himself or whatever. You just be like, oh wow, that's a really attractive person. Like, lucky kid. Keep it moving. Like, it's literally just a passing thought. It's how you treat the passing thought. And treating it like a passing thought is exactly that, you know, making it a passing thought. But there seems to be a lot, and mind you, her husband stayed back for the prompt as well, so I imagine there's a little bit of that influencing what she's saying and the choice that she's making. Once you've experienced cheating within a relationship, I imagine it's normal to sort of overcorrect a bit, and then you say, I'm not attracted to anybody, and I don't look at any other men, and I've never thought anybody else was attractive other than my husband, because probably that's what he wants to hear, and that's what makes the situation sort of be like quelled down a little bit. It's just not living in reality for me, but I'll be curious to hear him speak to what she just said.
Now it's because I am a believer, and I do believe in the cross. I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe that He is my Savior. He's my Lord and Savior. And I believe in the Bible. I believe in the whole Bible, not just a little bit of the Bible, but the whole entire Bible.
Oh, goodness.
It's funny.
I'm cringing too a little bit.
Yeah.
No, but part of me is like, yes, because we are human beings, and attraction is part of life. So I will say that. It's funny, that worked against me, meaning most of us, when you go out and date somebody, I'm assuming you find them very attractive, right? So in my head, I'm going to expect people to look at my wife or girlfriend as they're walking down the street, and even though sometimes it's rude to make certain comments. I've been in that, but I was the kind of person where I was like, I didn't care because as far as I know, she's with me and she's going to get looks. But because I didn't react, that was a problem because I didn't get jealous. And I'm like, why am I jealous? I'm with you. This is where I got confused. Are people just coming up in your relationship saying, hey, he's attractive, she's attractive, she's like, how does that work?
I mean,
personally.
My boyfriend's the same way. He is like, he wants me to like go out and people look at me, and I think that's, of course, sometimes I want him to be a little, of course, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I actually think that's right. I actually think that's a healthy way to go, is to be secure in the relationship, be like, yeah, my partner is hot and I get to be with them. I think that's a healthy way to go.
And my other question is this in the same line as emotional cheating? Because I've just kind of learned the definition of that, and then you just said that, and I'm seeing back, and I'm like, wait, this sounds...
Leon's just confused. Leon's just confused. He's not understanding the terms, whatever. Yeah, it's an interesting point that he said. He said, when I go out with my wife, I do expect people to look at my wife and think that she is attractive, much like probably many of you feel the same way about your partners, and you would know that if you've got an attractive partner, other people are also going to find them attractive. It's about being in a healthy enough and secure enough relationship that it doesn't matter that other people find your partner attractive, or that you find other people attractive. And it's just, I guess, it's really semantics on what they mean by attraction, what the expression of that really means, what acting on that attraction means, and so on and so forth.
Like emotional cheating.
No, I would say emotional cheating is like you're developing a romantic connection with another person.
And emotional cheating is also secretive most of the time.
Yes.
A lot of times. Having an open conversation with your partner about like, I mean, you watch a movie and you're like, oh, the actress is kind of hot,
Or, like with my current boyfriend, I am honest. We honestly make jokes about it sometimes. Like, I was like, oh, are you into her? Are you into her? And he's like, no, but like obviously I know that he like might think that she's pretty, but that's attraction. That's a physical attraction. There's so much more to a relationship that you can bank on. It's like an emotional thing, or like, are you there for me when I call you?
One question, do you think, based on that, do you think that's a healthier way? In that, sometimes you might joke about it, that, out of our choice that we might find someone attractive, or to just keep that hidden into yourself?
Well, okay, so I think you should definitely, like, if it's a celebrity or something, like, obviously I'm not gonna go and like, and two, I think too, like when you're saying attraction, there's attraction and then there's sexual attraction. So I think that there needs to be, they're two different things. I used to tell him, like, oh my God, when I was little, I used to love like Raspy, Chris Brown, all of them. Like, I used to think that they were so like, handsome, but like in my marriage, I don't see another man and be like, ooh, like he is.
I have a question.
Okay. I think she's just a little confused again. The overcorrection is the term I'm going to keep using for her, because there's no difference between the attractiveness of a celebrity and an average person that you see on the street who's not yet famous. So what is it about becoming famous that then makes you capable of acknowledging someone's attractiveness? Is it the degree of separation between you and them and the inability for you to act on that attraction? I'd imagine that's what she's saying, but you can still have an inability to act on that attraction with a random stranger that you see on the street. But I don't think I think for her husband's sake and for her own mental sake, after what she's done, she wants to keep as far a degree of separation as she possibly can from finding people that are within her like general vicinity attractive and expressing that out loud, because there's really no difference than a guy at the gas station who looks like Chris Brown and Chris Brown, except that they're famous and the other guy's not.
And just one other thought here is like, this is what's a little bit I don't want to say frustrating, but it's like sad for me to see as from a Christian perspective, is that like a lot of Christians internalize this sense of like, if I have even an impulse, then I should be feeling shame, I am bad, and I'm displeasing to God or whatever, when you're putting a burden on yourself that's more than what Christianity is asking of you in that particular case. And Christianity is not in denial about the fact that we're human and that we have impulses. But so for you to take on this perception of it, one, it harms you, and two, it also projects to the world that Christianity is about these very rigid ideas and black and white thinking that people can see is out of touch with reality. It makes you appear dishonest. It makes you appear just very delusional and having a very rigid system of morality that's just unattractive to people. So it's just unfortunate and kind of sad for me to see that seems to be where her brain is at. But like you said, you can see how she kind of maybe got there from the guilt or from the overcorrection from her past mistakes.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you guys are done talking, I don't want to interrupt.
Do you have something to say?
Yeah, and so I think that also defining it within your relationship is very important too. So like
totally. What
to
works
say
for you?
Exactly. So we may look at the terminology different, and so like for us, for example, if I say that I'm attracted to somebody, and we had to break this down even in our relationship. If I say I'm attracted to somebody, that means that I'm willing to pursue them just within us. That's what we came to an agreement of. Okay. Now I may say like, oh, they have a nice hairstyle, or they have nice eyes, or something like that. That's just a quick acknowledgement, and we may compliment them on it and just keep it moving. And that's just in our definition of what we have within our marriage.
Okay, so they've redefined the term attraction within the confines of their marriage. That's cool. That's fine. We're not gonna
Discussion's moving backwards.
Yeah, we're not gonna stick to the point anymore. Okay, we're gonna skip ahead to I would rather not know I was cheated on. Let me know, please. Just let me know. Just be straightforward. And there's gonna be people who have different views on this, but of course I want to know. It puts the ball in my court to make a decision as to whether or not to move forward in the relationship, and it gives me more knowledge and a sense of honesty towards what's happening and a sense of awareness towards what's happening in my relationship. So I think you should extend that awareness to people. Now, there are people who don't want to know if they've been cheated on because they want to remain in the bliss of their relationship, or if you have like a marriage that's been going on for 20 years, you don't want to let an indiscretion ruin your entire marriage. There are other people who argue that the cheater telling you that they've cheated is just a means of them lifting the burden off of themselves and handing the burden onto you. I don't agree with that, but I could see why people would look at it that way. I 100% want full honesty to be able to be in the best place of awareness to make a decision about the relationship that I'm in, and that requires knowing about the cheating.
Yeah, painful as it may be, truth is better than not truth, and the truth will give you the opportunity to grow and to just be further forward in life and better. And like, ignorance is bliss, but would you? That's like saying, I'd rather live in the Matrix. I'd rather just live a lie and be ignorant of it, and yet be able to enjoy this fake reality that I'm inhabiting instead of confronting the difficult truth just because it's uncomfortable. And I think the truth will set you free. You want to have the freedom of living in the truth and living in reality. So definitely would rather know in this case.
Yeah, best to know. Let's see who agrees. Okay. Oh, somebody said, okay, so she said don't want to know.
Lonely up here. So I think my perspective on this has shifted quite a bit after the last year, since I've been dialoguing so much with both betrayers and the betrayed party. And I think that there's slight benefit to the person who has been betrayed if the betrayer has already come to a decision about leaving the relationship. I think that our whole truth is not necessarily an obligation to give to everybody.
Did you let your husband know when you cheated, or your ex-husband know when you cheated on him?
Yeah, I told him.
How did that conversation?
It was awful. It was horrible. It felt like I was giving him more information than he needed. So what had happened was, fell in love with a colleague overseas. I was like, there's no way this can be happening. I am married. I can't do this. And then I slept with him, and I went back home, and I moved out, And I said, okay, I cannot be trusted with this person. And I disclosed everything and dropped the hammer and then just went on my way to an apartment by myself. If you have cheated on somebody, the psychological effects on that person need to be considered. Your perception of everything that had occurred is tainted because you're wondering, well, was she thinking about me in this picture that we took? Was she thinking about him? And I think that there is just a lot to consider when you are deliberating on how much and what to share.
I love everything you.
I guess her main point seems to be if you're planning on leaving the relationship after you cheat, you might as well just leave the relationship and not tell them that you've cheated because you don't want to, again, give them the burden of this knowledge. I can understand and empathize with that argument. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it. And again, I guess it's dependent on how many details you want to give the person. I'd rather just you be honest and be pretty straight up about the reason that you are leaving, which more than likely would be have something to do with the cheating. I can understand how psychologically that's going to be a worse burden to leave somebody when you do end up breaking up with them. But again, I'm just like, I'd rather have the honest truth about what happened rather than sitting in the I guess a different sort of psychosis of just speculating about why the relationship ended or what happened or what ended up going wrong. Just give me the truth and trust the person that you're in a relationship with that they can handle that truth and give them the agency to be able to handle that in whatever way they see fit, if that's what they want. If they tell you, I don't want to know if you've cheated on me, then okay, then respect that request. But yeah, I'd rather just know. Just tell me. Yeah.
You just said, I agree, but with like a caveat of, I'm thinking of this from the cheater's perspective. I always told my partners when I cheated on them, but I told them for the wrong reasons. I told them to alleviate my own guilt. And when the fact is, I should have just ended the relationship. And so my thing is, I wouldn't want my partner to tell me just so they could beg me for my forgiveness and let's move forward, da-da-da. I would only want them to tell me in the context of like, and I'm breaking up with you. Like, and no like details or anything. It would just be like, I'm breaking up with you. Oh my God, why? I cheated. And I obviously can't be with somebody that I would cheat on. Like that would be, so yes, I would want them to tell me, but like only in that context of like, I cheated, we have to break up.
Interesting. So she wants it in the context of them leaving the relationship, not in the context of them keeping the relationship going. So if they're intending on staying with you, you would rather not know that they've cheated on you. That's a very interesting take.
I believe you owe it to that person no matter what. I believe that the person that you cheated on needs to know, and not only that, it's the secrecy, like, that it hurts so much more when you're keeping it a secret from them and not telling them anything. I truly believe in confession. I believe that needs to be said, and they need to know that. They need to know that.
Yeah,
I know you mentioned like psychological damage. How would you respond to that?
I would say it is not my place to dictate what somebody else needs. It's their place to tell me what they need.
Initially.
Okay, so you're supposed to have the premonition that somebody is cheating on you and then preemptively come to them and tell them, if you cheat on me or if you are cheating on me, I need you to tell me. That is a need that I have within our relationship. Oh my goodness. And this girl, I think, is a counselor. Guys, let that sink in. It's been waiting outside for a long time. I think she's a therapist.
Actually telling them that, hey, I stepped out and I cheated on you. Is a necessity, just point blank, period. Now, how far you go into details is going to then at that point be, okay, how much does that person ask to where they may want to try and figure out, okay, why did this happen? What happened? Who did it happen with? When? If they ask those questions, then I think you definitely owe it to them to answer it, regardless of what you may feel like. For to your point where you brought up psychologically, I feel like at that point, once you've already cheated, like psychologically, they've already taken a lot of damage. So therefore, we still have to.
If you don't know about it, it doesn't do any damage.
Well, I will say there's one.
Oof. And it doesn't give at all any voice to the fact that a lot of people have very strong intuition about what's going on in their relationship and have a feeling something is going wrong, but they never get the actual truth told to them. And that is a form of torture in itself. And I speak from that from personal experience. The first relationship that I was ever in, I was in for 3 years, unfortunately, and this individual was a serial cheater. And the whole time you have little red flags or little things going off in the back of your brain, but you're young, you're naive, you don't give voice to those things that you're feeling, and you go through however long of a relationship and then find out at the very end that somebody's been cheating on you or doing it in multiple different instances. It is like being robbed of time, not to mention the different, traumatic impact that it has to be thinking of these things and agonizing over them and not have the truth ever be given to you. So I don't know what she's talking about like it being a need that you have to express, or, the truth doesn't hurt them if they don't know it. Many people have very strong intuition and they know that something wrong is going on. They just don't know what it is.
One thing, you did say, I don't want to be with someone who cheated on me, right? So, but you agreed that you would never tell the person, right? If you cheated on them. So let's say you're in a relationship.
I didn't say that.
Well, but you came forward as an agreeer,
Yes.
right? And then just before we all came forward, you said, I would never want to be in a relationship with someone who cheated on me.
Yes.
And if they neglected to tell you that, then you would technically be in a relationship.
Well, then
someone who cheated on you.
Then I'll say I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with somebody I know cheated on me, and that's why I'm saying.
Got it.
So
Okay.
I guess I'm not agree or disagree. I'm more in the middle of
Totally.
like I would want them to tell me I cheated on you, and therefore like we should break up.
In my situation, I found out. But if I'm being honest with you, I don't know if it would have been worse or better if they told me. I'm being honest with you. I don't even know how to comprehend that. Like me finding out, then you bold-faced coming to me and saying, I did this, this, and this.
It doesn't change the outcome.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think it makes any, me personally, I
that can
don't
be
know.
subject to any, everybody. But at the end of the day, I feel like when you're holding something back from, it's honestly you're not even taking accountability for what you did. So if you're gonna say like I'm not gonna tell them because of psychological damage, you chose to cheat.
Hold on. Disclosing that you cheated to the person that you cheated on is not accountability. That is just revealing.
That is taking accountability.
Accountability.
I would consider that as a form of taking accountability. You're so open.
That's delivering
Be open
news.
about this. Listen.
That's delivering news.
That is
It's
a
the
form
first
of
step
taking
towards
accountability.
Thank you.
He's right. He's right. It's the first step to taking accountability. It's what happens after. I can tell you that I've cheated on you and then do nothing to solve the problem or to make you feel better or to be healthier in future relationships, and that's not full accountability. But step one to taking accountability for an action that you've committed against somebody is to own up to that action and hopefully apologize for that action, whether or not that person forgives you or not. So the girl who cheated and the older guy are on the right track here. It is the first step to accountability, to tell the person, hey, this is what I've done. And again, it puts the ball in their court to make a decision about their life, especially if you are wanting to stay in the relationship with that person. It's different if you're going to break up with them. I would offer that you should express what you've done to them. But especially if you want to stay in a relationship, don't pull the wool over somebody's eyes and then stick with them in a relationship that they think is totally happy and healthy, and you've gone and cheated on them, and that is a step towards taking accountability.
It's the first step to
It's interesting
Not
because
necessarily accountability.
Be open about this one.
Let's let her
then.
respond. Let's let her respond.
Be open.
Girlfriend. Okay. All right.
Good.
I'm just saying, you're very open about it, but you're like, it's hypocritical. So when you're saying like, I have the right to withhold this information for the sake of psychological damage, but you chose to cheat.
You're talking about the benefits for you. You're alleviating your guilt by telling somebody what you did. You are achieving relief by doing a confession. And what I'm saying is, maybe it doesn't have to be that person.
And I'm going to challenge her in that telling somebody that you did something wrong doesn't always alleviate the guilt that you feel. It might alleviate the guilt of secrecy that you feel. It doesn't alleviate the guilt of the action that you committed against this person. And, if you are a feeling person or a particularly empathetic person, I imagine having to tell that person that news and watch their reaction would spark more guilt within your mind or your soul, if that's what you believe in, whatever the case may be. That would lead to more guilt, hopefully, if you're a feeling person towards the person that you claim to be in love with and you're in a relationship with. It maybe alleviates the burden of the secret that you've been carrying around, but there's more guilt to come, more than likely more guilt to come.
Yeah, just real quick, you can do the right thing for the wrong reasons, but it's still the right thing to own your moral failure and disclose your broken promise. So it's true that you can do that with the wrong intent of only wanting to alleviate your guilt, but the fact remains that that is still something that you should do if you have violated that person's trust in that way.
100%.
As someone who's been cheated on,
I was about to ask the same question.
I guess who else would you tell?
I would tell a therapist. I would go and I would check.
And I bet she is a therapist, right? So I would go and tell the person that makes me money, and let me just advise that to people who are dealing with this.
Therapy, and I would say, holy I derailed my life and I don't know what I'm doing. But I don't want to cause any more damage, and therefore, please help me, guide me in my next steps. A good therapist
is that, though?
will allow
selfish.
you.
It's still.
I'm very selfish.
Actually, to be honest, I think
my number one priority is me. Me.
Okay, there we go. The quiet part has been said out loud there. We finally cleared that up. We've been feeling it throughout this episode and everything that she said, but she's clearing it up for us now.
And that was the biggest lesson I learned.
And is it still like that in your relationship today?
Absolutely.
Well,
if I want to show up to a thriving relationship requires a fulfilled individual. And if I do not have me at the primary center of my decisions, I will start making decisions for other people. And what that means is they start to lead my life.
No.
I don't.
We don't believe
I actually changed I think I've changed.
Yikes. So she has the idea that herself must be central to every single decision that she makes in order for her to have a fruitful life. And that is astounding to me, because even if she is like a counselor or a therapist, there's quite a lot to be said about putting somebody else at the center of your decisions and, giving to other people or doing something purely for the sake of another person that leads to fulfillment and, gratification within yourself. So how she's constantly thinking of herself and making selfish decisions, how that's going to bring about a healthy life for her. We'll see.
Especially in a committed relationship, like so much of being in a relationship is about compromise. It's about joyfully making sacrifices and being deferential out of preference to the other person, out of preference to the relationship. It's saying, because I love you, it brings me joy to defer and to put you first, to put our relationship first in these different ways. It doesn't mean you're being a doormat. That doesn't mean you're compromising on your identity or who you are. It just means that you have entered into a relationship that is predicated on mutual giving, mutual sacrifice, where you both are committed to the relationship as something higher than your individual lives and pursuits. And I've said it before, like when I got married, I told my wife, like, whatever I was going to be as an individual, I am laying that down. And now my priority in life going forward from this moment on is our relationship, our marriage. And that is the basis on which I will make my choices and my decisions. And that's part of the commitment I made to her. And to me, that I don't know how you have a successful relationship if your priority in life is 100% me. I can't show up to this relationship unless I'm prioritizing myself. Well, the other person, presumably, you're expecting that of them as well. And inevitably, you're going to clash in so many different ways, and you'll never be able to have something that really works long term, unless, she's a therapist and she's probably got some therapized way of making this all work. But just knowing humanity and knowing how relationships have worked in history, like, you've got to be willing to make some sacrifices to make any relationship work. That's just true.
Yeah, and I get that you have to put yourself in a healthy position in order to be healthy in a relationship, and to some extent that involves self-interest. But her idea that everything she does is totally selfish is just a really interesting one. I'd be curious how that philosophy carries over into like having children, which the act in itself is one of stepping outside of yourself and doing selfless acts on a daily basis for another human being that is now at the center of your decisions. I just don't know. I understand philosophically what she's saying. I don't know that it translates into healthy outcomes.
Changed my opinion. It didn't occur to me the idea of like finding it. Like that just didn't occur.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
if it's for me, if it's between walking in on my partner cheating, I mean, that would just traumatize me. Versus like my partner coming to me and saying, listen, I cheated. I would prefer the latter. I would want the choice. Do I want to move forward in this relationship, or do I want to break up? And I would want to give my partner that same choice, to put the ball in their court and say, this happened, this is how I feel about it, which might be like, and we need to break up, or I don't want to break up, or whatever it is. I did this is how I feel. How do you feel? Do you want to stay with me? Do you want to work this out or not?
When you're telling the other person, I'm always curious, like, what do you expect from the other person? And that's where I start to question, are you doing it for selfish reasons? Because I expect them to be like, you know what, we'll work through it.
I don't think you can expect anything.
Which is,
you have to go on without
I'm curious, like, at the time, can you recollect or remember what you were thinking?
Oh, at the time?
At the time, yeah, what you were thinking when you said, I'm going to tell?
There were times I cheated that I did not tell my partner. So I'm thinking about that too now. When I told my partners that I cheated, it was out of guilt, it was out of shame, and I wouldn't necessarily say expectation, but my hope was that they would forgive me. And I guess that maybe.
Wait, I have a question really quick.
Well, her partners are finding out now if they watch any Jubilee videos. That'll be a shock. That's a fun one to find out.
She's talking about it too, of like, I've cheated so many times. But this time I did it, I didn't tell him, and this time I did, and with this one I was like this. I'm like, man, how many people have you cheated on?
Yeah, she's racking up numbers over here. Yeah, wow, wowza.
Did telling them eliminate your shame and guilt?
No, of course not.
I'm curious if you're open.
That's not the goal. I mean, it is the goal if you're acting purely out of self-interest. It seems to be her philosophical perspective on life, but it's not supposed to alleviate your shame and guilt. The very nature of telling somebody this is to say, I did this thing. I have to live with the shame and the guilt of what I did, but I want you to be able to make an informed decision about what you do going forward in life. You're giving them agency over what happens moving forward, whether or not you stay in the relationship or you leave the relationship. And it's about giving them a full picture about what has happened in regard to their life. It's as simple as that. And you should go into it with no expectations, not thinking I'm going to be forgiven. They're going to slap me. They're going to fight me. They're whatever. You should go in and say, I accept whatever the outcome is of me telling this truth to you because it's an action that I committed. And unfortunately, it was a betrayal against you.
Let's actually dig into, I guess, what was kind of like your point there?
If you are disclosing information to somebody else in effort of releasing something that you feel is holding you back, shame and guilt, that is actually not the effective solution. The effective solution is going into the shame and guilt, acknowledging it, and understanding why it's there. Shame tells me I am not aligned with my value system and the way that I operate in the world.
But you're missing the point of the other person's time. You've pretty much ruined their life. You've used up their time.
Ruin their life is strong wording, but I get what he's saying.
No. Hold on, wait a second.
So you don't think you?
Wait a second.
Go ahead.
I think that the only person who has the power to destroy my life is me.
I mean, you can say that. You can say that now.
That's so ridiculous. Say a gunman comes into the Jubilee thing while you're filming, and then boom, you're done for. I'm sorry, sir. Put the gun down. The only person who has the power to destroy my life is me. And he just puts it down and walks away. That's how that works. No, you as a person impact the people around you, and sometimes negatively. Now, destroying somebody's life is a very strong characterization of cheating on them. I don't necessarily agree with that. But the fact that she is all for this idea of selfishness and is coupling it with the idea that my actions are my own and I can't control the way those actions affect you is just really blind allegiance to a philosophy that benefits her, rather than acknowledging that your actions do affect people and you should be aware of when that impact is negative or positive.
As a person who's grown and gone through something, but when you're in the situation, when you're in a relationship with somebody and they don't know that you're cheating on them, you think like you owe that to.
Why would I develop a dependency for my life's purpose?
But it sounds.
No one's saying it's a dependency.
No, it sounds like you're trying to say that I should just be able to do whatever I want. How you take it is all up to you, but I'm going to have the freedom to do whatever I want, even if it hurts you. That's what it sounds like.
Maybe you didn't hear my first statement. I agree that you don't always have to disclose a betrayal to the betrayed person.
I think that you always should give that to them. It's not in a sense to try and relieve any type of
Did she just say if you have a suicidal partner? She's jumping to the extreme in order to validate her opinion and the way that she probably handles
guilt or
situations.
shame that you have. It's not to say that, oh, once I do this, I'm going to feel better. No, it's, as you said, to put the ball in their court and say, you know what, I got to be upfront with you, because just think about the emotional trauma of what they're going to feel when you say it to their face. But what about the trauma that they'll feel if they hear it from somebody behind their back?
Let's think about this. Let's specifically look at this guy's example. His wife came to him and told him, I cheated on you. What that allowed for him was not only was he able to forgive his wife and continue a relationship with her, but he took self-inventory and found out that he was not being a good husband. He said, I was going to work, I was bringing home the money, I was having sex with my wife, and I didn't truly care about the inner dynamics of our relationship. I didn't care about the true intimate moments of our relationship. So her coming to him and giving him the truth allowed him to actually go through a journey of growth that he might not have experienced independent of her telling him exactly what happened in their relationship. So had she kept that a secret, remained in a marriage with him, there's so many different things that go wrong. His intuition telling him that something has happened and he doesn't know what it is, him finding out maybe later down the line when he invested time and he may have wanted to leave that relationship in the wake of cheating, the own personal growth that he went through as a man in regard to his relationship after finding out that he was cheated on, the learning about just human nature and attraction and how that works within his Christian framework. This all happened because somebody came to him and told him the truth of what they had done to him. And he could have been robbed of all of that, including his own agency to make a decision about the future of his marriage. So you have to allow people to do that.
100%. And all I would add is that, like, not only having not infidelity is such a low bar for a relationship. Like, the whole purpose of having an exclusive long-term relationship is to create a space. You commit to each other in exclusivity in order to create a space for an intimacy in relationships that you cannot otherwise experience in any sort of relationship in life, in planet Earth. That's what marriage means to me, is like, I'm creating this space where we have this level of trust and safety and belonging to explore a type of relationship that cannot be known outside of that level of commitment. And so to merely make a relationship or consider a relationship successful merely because there is no infidelity is, you can have no infidelity and yet have so much dysfunction and so many wrong perspectives and so much immaturity, selfishness, using transactional things, abusing the other person. Those things can all exist and there not be infidelity. That is a possibility. So I think that's an important unmentioned element of the conversation when we're talking about cheating. And you're right, that doesn't justify cheating or make it any less of a horrible thing within the context of a relationship. But when you look at the relationship from a more holistic perspective, you can see, like, well, cheating can be a manifestation of dysfunction. It can be, obviously it's a manifestation of shortcoming in character on the part of the person who broke their promise, but it can also be what conditions created the opportunity for that to happen. That may have happened anyways, but like you were saying, you can take inventory of all those things and look at that and grow, and depriving yourself of that opportunity or thinking that just because there's no cheating in your relationship that somehow you've arrived it doesn't seem to me to be a very wise perspective, and it can make you settle for something that is less than what you are capable of experiencing with another person and sharing with them, but you may not be getting there just because you have too low of expectations.
100%. And I'm going to be honest, people seem to have like this end all be all view of cheating of like, it's the absolutely worst, horrible, most devastating thing you could do to somebody. It's never their fault. It's never has to do with them. Although most of the time I do agree with that. You should take inventory of your relationship. It's just like, fights in relationships don't typically manifest out of nowhere. Random arguments, secrecy in relationship doesn't typically manifest out of nowhere. Poor communication in relationships doesn't typically manifest out of nowhere, and the same can be said for cheating. So you should just be more aware of your surroundings, what brings it about. But if she hadn't told him, watch them get divorced, he goes on and treats another marriage the exact same way he treated her, and he gets cheated on again. And he's like, what the hell is going on? Why are all my marriages falling apart? And it's because you never got the truth in the first place as to what was going on.
And like, I have to just, about putting the ball in your court, I wish that had happened to me. Like, as the person cheated on, both times I was not told. Both times I don't know, used magical intuition or something, and I knew exactly who it was, when it was, what time it happened, and I broke off the relationship
Deep
the first
down,
time.
we always know.
We always know. And so, I mean, I think, putting the ball, I wish the ball had been put in my court. Both times I was not apologized to. They never admitted to doing it.
Oh,
and like,
I was.
damn.
I've
So
been cheated on
rough.
too, and I've also been cheated on.
And I wish, I don't know
When I
if I've
was
been
cheated on as well, he came and told me and broke up with me and gave me no option.
That's right.
So that's but I think that was very, very, very emotionally traumatizing for me,
Because it felt like abandonment.
Yeah, it did. But I've never been abandoned before. Like, I've never experienced
your
that.
first
So
experience with
right. And so it definitely took time for me to get
She brought up a very good point. What if someone is suicidal? What if
I did hear that.
Like that made me think, because I'm like, I think you should definitely disclose it at some point somehow. And yet, if I had a partner who was so fragile and I knew that
But how long have they been fragile? Were they fragile when you cheated or way before you cheated?
I mean, of course, there's special circumstances. If you truly thought telling somebody the truth was going to lead them to take their own life, then I think we can extend a special umbrella of holding off on that for that particular circumstance. But we just know that that's not, it's not the typical case for relationships.
That's kind of why.
I've been in that situation. There are safeguards you can put in place that you make sure that they're with safe people, that they have people who can support them through that time. Because I have been in that situation.
But what I'm saying is, I respect that, but the same token, when you met this person with a suicidal...
Oh, no, I'm saying I was the suicidal person who was cheated on.
But using that as like a deterrent for why you shouldn't tell someone it's not always...
As
I understand
somebody,
it.
No, as somebody who was in that situation, I agree that I was still glad I was told.
It's not always the cheater's fault when they cheat.
It's not always the cheater's fault when they cheat. I mean, no, it's still a decision that you make, regardless. And that's why, you've decided to make the decision instead of going to your partner and expressing what's going on or leaving the relationship or whatever. That's your fault, baby.
I can think of one instance where I would say it's not the cheater's fault. If someone is in an abusive situation and maybe they don't feel safe to leave the relationship, I could understand why, and maybe even like they've fallen for someone else, they use that as an excuse to get out of the relationship. I would still say it stems from within, for sure, but that would be the one instance in which I would say I could totally understand like where the cheating came from, that you're not safe.
I guess. It's another extreme. It's like the suicidal extreme. If you're with somebody who's gonna like kill you before they let you leave the relationship, then by all means, go make yourself happy and hopefully find something fulfilling. I just don't know that that's the safest situation to be in if you are in an abusive relationship. That's almost guaranteeing that when they find out you are a goner, you're going to experience some severe repercussions. So I think my first view on that would be to get out of the relationship in like stealth mode, start putting things together, get out without creating any sort of conflict, and then you can deal with love and relationships and companionship outside of getting out of a very unhealthy situation.
Real quick, I would say like I can't imagine the extreme circumstance in which like you're a prisoner in your life and you can't leave, and then somehow you have access to another person that you can form a romantic relationship with. But it doesn't morally justify like cheating just because you are in an abusive situation. And also, you're not really in a condition to enter into a romantic relationship or a healthy romantic relationship if you're still in this abusive position. I think much more likely people are using that rationale in order to justify things because like, oh, well, my partner's doing this. I'm not in a great situation. I have a suboptimal situation. Therefore, that justifies me going out on my partner. When in reality, I think you need to take ownership of what you can and work toward getting out of that relationship in whatever healthy way that you can, and then start worrying about your romantic life after that. But it just seems like that maybe in some very extreme circumstance where someone's like a prisoner, completely deprived of agency in their life, and then they just happen to have access to someone that they can find romance with but can't disclose it to anybody. Like, I don't know, maybe that's a situation that could exist in reality, but I think it's much more likely that people would use that sort of logic to justify something when in reality they should be taking steps to get out of toxicity and then that'll give you space to enter into a healthy relationship.
Agreed, 100%.
I have read too many accounts of women and men being taken advantage of and being put into a situation where there really is no choice. So a lot of the women that I counsel are in domestic violence households, and a lot of them have been threatened with murder if they chose to leave the relationship. And so what ends up happening is all of a sudden you're at work and you are having a conversation with a male colleague who exhibits genuine care for you and your situation. It's almost impossible to stop the inertia of love.
This woman is a therapist counseling clients in domestic abuse situations, and she's advising that you follow the feelings you have for some guy at work. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, at a time in your life when you're most emotionally vulnerable.
Yeah, at a time where you definitely need to get out of whatever situation and you're not going to make proper decisions as to who's a healthy partner. Oh my goodness. Ay, Dios mío.
From being able to take that person out of the situation.
If I had to play devil's advocate, do you think replacing something that can be considered negative with another negative makes it right?
It's difficult to compare like one sin to another, but I think that at the end of the day, if somebody is harming you, whether it's emotionally or physically, and they're making that choice, that's always going to be worse to me.
I also think that truth and reality really don't give a about right or wrong. So it's kind of like, why would I be so obsessed with labeling somebody else's decision that ultimately resulted in their safety?
Yeah, might make them safer.
Does that make them safer? I feel like it puts them more in harm's way, and I can agree to a certain extent that you shouldn't get bogged down in what's technically right or wrong when you're in a situation that is involving somebody's health and wellness, but none of this is really making sense or checking out to like what you should do in an instance like this, and it just makes me shudder to think that she is advising people who are dealing with domestic violence, and this is her way of going about that.
Okay, I believe wrong is wrong. I do. I believe that two wrongs don't make a right. There's no way, like, that's just my personal belief. I don't think that,
But what if that person is not safe to leave?
But they're okay to cheat.
Wait, it's not a question of okay.
I think that it's without partiality. Like, I can't sit here and say that somebody is right for cheating based off
We didn't say right. We just said
or they're okay to be able to cheat based off of the fact that they're in an abusive relationship. If you are in an abusive relationship, get the heck out.
But what if you can't? It's not always that
Then
simple.
how is it that no one is able to tell me?
You gotta talk to some girls.
Okay,
My question would be,
calm down.
so
I just
if
want to
we're-
know. I'm asking the question because you're saying that someone can sit there and cheat on someone based off of the fact that they're in an abusive relationship. Where does that come? Like, how does that make that okay or make it right? Where does that come?
It's not a black and white thing, and I think we keep coming to that. I don't think anybody is saying like it's okay. I think we're just saying it's not okay, and it's in the middle.
But I believe in yes or no and okay or not
Right,
okay,
and
right or wrong.
I think some of us.
Okay, so she has a very black and white view. They have a clearly moral gray area. I can sympathize with both, with what they're expressing. I'm just saying, if you're in a domestic abuse situation, your number one priority under all circumstances is, how do I get myself out of this situation? We can worry about like dating and love and companionship when you're on the other end of the situation that you're in. All of your energy should be utilized toward getting out of an unhealthy situation, because mixing in love and companionship with somebody who is beating you on any given day is not a healthy dynamic to remain in. And the fact that she as a therapist is seeing women who are dealing with situations like this and reinforcing the idea that they cannot get out of this situation is insane to me, which is essentially what she just said. You need to talk to more women. There's plenty of women who can't get themselves out of these situations. What do you mean? Like, there's a million different things that you can and should be doing in order to remove yourself from a situation like this. And the fact that she's not advising them in that direction,
I'm thinking black and white, and some of us just aren't those kinds of people, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I'm not open about that.
But I'm not saying that being unsafe in an abusive relationship makes it okay to cheat. What I'm saying is that someone might use forming a relationship with another person as a safety net, because now you have somebody else to go to. Because I think a lot of people don't realize, but the abuse actually kicks up after you leave the relationship. It gets worse because the person who is abusing you will stalk you, will chase you, will blow up your phone, will show up at your house. It is very dangerous for people, I'm not gonna gender it, for people who are leaving abusive situations. It gets more dangerous. And so cheating, forming another relationship with somebody, may actually help that person find safety.
My question would be,
that's like a very interesting risk to take. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say that that statement is wholly untrue, because there is something to be said for, if you're dealing with a dangerous man and you find a safe man, it's probably best to be in the hands of the safe man when the dangerous man is coming for you. But that's a big old risk to take when you're dealing with an abusive relationship that has, you know, the nature of like murder and crime and things like that. That's what they seem to be speaking to. Do that at your own risk, baby girl, if that's what you think is going to save you in this situation. I'd argue that there's many other people who could put you in a safe position that don't involve, you know, another sense of love and companionship that can help you get out of the domestic violence situation that you are in. And you should go towards that before you make any other choice. And like Taylor said, you're in a really vulnerable position. You might choose somebody who is safer than the person you're in this domestic abuse situation with, but that doesn't mean that that's a good person, a great person. You're in a time where your brain is probably being fried and thrown in all these different directions from the trauma. You're not making your best decision as to who you jump to and who is actually a safety net. So it's best to probably go to a third party who is not getting love and companionship and sexuality out of you, to make yourself safe first, then heal from what you've endured in the relationship, then you go out and find another partner.
Yeah, and just from a male perspective, like, what kind of safe man is going to enter into this type of relationship with someone who's under emotional distress and also apparently be complicit somehow in you not leaving this other man who's abusing you? Like, if I'm in that situation and I'm this new guy, then priority number one, before we worry about developing any sort of romance, is let's get you out of this unsafe environment. And just purely from a platonic sense of like goodwill and humanity, let's get you out of this so that you are in a position to first be safe and heal and be okay. And then we can explore the romantic aspects of our relationship. But if you're relying on this person who's romantically involved with you now to be complicit with what's going on, or to be giving you some sort of romantic escape from what you are also enduring, like, to me, that just signals that whoever that person is somebody who is willing to engage with someone who's in such a vulnerable position in a romantic way, and that's a red flag. And then they're not helping you as a priority before taking things further to get out of that toxic situation. So her argument's not making sense to me at all.
No, yeah, that's a good point. What type of guy is putting you in that situation and maintaining that situation for you?
Like, how would it help them find safety if the relationship is already abusive? I would think that would anger the person more to where
it doesn't matter though. That's what I'm saying.
It's the disclosing of the internal reality.
We are all humans in our bodies, and you have a right to feel comfortable in your body and to feel safe. And whether or not you have to make a decision that that makes you immoral or whatever in order to protect your safety, that is okay in my eyes. I don't think about right and wrong. I was raised in the church, so I was drilled a lot about black and white and right and wrong. I just can't. And my dad was a pastor. Crazy.
I know we brought up specifics and everything, but I think if we're just looking at the specific prompt in itself, I think that there's always a choice. There's always a choice. I understand, maybe if someone's under the influence and, I can see how that could be literally blurred. But I think in general, if someone's sober,
cheating is a choice.
No, I agree.
And I think that's where we can put the fault on that person because they made that conscious decision.
But what is the purpose of assigning fault?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying there's any purpose. That wasn't the prompt.
Yeah.
Like the prompt was like that the person is at fault.
Boil it down.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get
my
deeper.
point. But
No, I understand. I love that.
Yeah, it's still that choice to where you have to have the accountability held for you. I think that's where it's important to have the right or wrong,
Yes.
regardless of whether we think it's black or white. Yes, I feel like if we do not have an objective choice of what is right, what is wrong, then we should just be in a world that's a free-for-all and jails emptied out. No judicial system. The thought process in my mind, I know it was brought up that, okay, that may be their only way out of the relationship. But then it was later brought up that sometimes getting out of the relationship is the worsening part. So if you're leaning towards getting out the relationship anyway, are you going to create
what I
more
meant
havoc?
is that you have a safe haven now that somebody, which is also might lead to more toxic situations, but I just mean if you are so desperate to get out of a relationship and you know that abuse is going to crank up as soon as you leave, now I have somebody else to protect me. That's what I was thinking.
Now I have somebody else to put in harm's way that I'm now allowed to enter this situation. And she very briefly goes over the fact, well, it could create a worse situation for you and doesn't really speak to that. But also to the Christian guy's point about there being an objective right and wrong, I think he's going to find there is very much a spectrum. And I'll give you guys an example. We say that murder is wrong. And he's saying oh, if this is not the case, we'll just empty out all the jails. But when you guys have heard stories of, say, there's a viral video that goes around of this mother, and she goes into a courtroom and she shoots a guy, and the guy abused her child. And there's many people who have done this before. And we look at that and we go, okay, yeah, that's wrong, but it's on a different level to what we would see of somebody just murdering somebody in cold blood or murdering an innocent person. We view these things differently. So while he may argue that everything is just black and white and right and wrong, we make our own little personal judgments, which is why our relationships have different agreements as to what is right, what is wrong, how we deal with certain situations. And he managed to get over something that he's deemed to be wholly wrong within his own relationship. So there is there's a spectrum on things. If I heard from a friend and they say, I'm cheating on my boyfriend and he's the nicest guy in the world and worships her, I'm gonna be like, wow, you're cheating on your boyfriend. That's horrible. If I hear from a girl and she comes to me and says, I'm cheating on my boyfriend, but he beats me every single day, I'm gonna be like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. But I view the situation far differently than the guy who's doting, loving, worshiping her. And I think that that's judgments that we all make. We're gonna close out this video now.
And I do think that, again, blame, fault, I prefer accountability.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing, is something can be right, something can be wrong, something can be in the middle.
And right and wrong is very subjective.
Exactly.
It's very different for everyone.
Last thoughts.
Right. At the end of the day, whatever my reason or excuse or whatever you want to call it, it was a choice that I made, and I cannot put that on the other person.
Okay.
We have to move on. Any last
I want
concluding
to say
words
one
for
thing.
each
I want to
person?
say one thing.
No, we got to move on to the last concluding words.
Once a cheater, always a cheater isn't a thing. I believe that there is forgiveness. I believe that you should forgive yourself. I believe in confessing to your partner. I believe that you owe that to that person. If you are cheating, you need to tell them, and you can change. There is a new life for you. But that's what I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
It's great to be able to have a conversation and see the other side and the other perspective in a safe space, So I don't really have any concluding thoughts about the conversation other than thank you for the conversation.
Yeah,
to hear your perspective, it all made me think. And the interesting thing for me is knowing why I cheated and where I am now just as a human being with my maturity understanding of the world, and my own history of abuse and trauma and how it's like I've forgiven myself a long time ago. It's not about that, but kudos to everyone for just being respectful and really being vulnerable.
So
obviously going through being cheated on, it wasn't a great experience, but I have a different perspective than I have ever had, than I ever would have had if I didn't get cheated on, because now I know how to communicate, and I think that that's like the biggest thing and the biggest gift that we all have, is we're able to speak and we're able to communicate.
Yeah, I think throughout this whole conversation, I think I learned that communication is preventative on all different measures, and if we can learn how to have that communication prior to, it can help us stay away from the hard conversations.
Right.
100% agree.
Yeah.
Tell it to all of America and all the world. Nuance and talking.
Ask for permission, not beg for forgiveness.
Thanks for joining this episode of Middle Ground of Cheaters versus Cheaters.
Okay, there we go. We got through that one. That one was interesting. We skipped a few prompts, and I'm curious what happened within those. But wow, a lot to unpack. Lots of strong opinions. Lots of therapizing, and whoever is a client of that female therapist, cancel your next appointment. Please cancel your next appointment. This girl is not good. Okay,
Somebody in the chat had said that therapist needs actual therapy.
Yeah, my goodness, she needs to go to somebody. That's nuts. Anyways, let's get into your super chat.
All right, yeah, let's hear what you guys thought.
Yes.
I'm very curious to let y'all weigh in. Aethers was our first super chatter today, narrowly beating our usual Daniel Santana by a minute or so.
Very nice.
Aether says, "Happy Friday, Amal and Taylor." Aethers lands on top.
Hey, happy Friday. Now it's going to be a battle of who says happy Friday first on our Friday streams.
Yeah, I love it. Daniel Santana, right on the heels, says, "Hello, I hope that everything is going well for you both this Friday."
Oh, we love that. Thank you so much, Daniel Santana. Appreciate you.
It's better now that we got our weekly Daniel Santana
It is.
Friday greeting. Kwazakule says, "Late by a few seconds, but happy Friday." Amala,
gosh.
I've been meaning to compliment you on singing Snooze by SZA. Have a nice weekend, y'all.
Oh, thank you. And I got to do another happy Friday. Yeah, I do have a short cover of Snooze by SZA on my Instagram. So thank you for checking that out. I appreciate it.
That y'all stay on her about doing more music.
I know. I post it on my Instagram every now and then. I was just thinking about doing another one the other day. So maybe this weekend we'll see. No promises on that.
Maybe for the Patreon subs.
Yeah. Maybe for you Patreon guys, we can do a little cover or something.
Kennedy says, "Hey, A and Tay, how are you guys doing today? I always love to say it's Taylor in Nashville when Taylor gets introduced."
Nice. Yeah, I'm like, I was thinking today, should I switch it up? Do we need to continue to say it's Taylor in Nashville? Is that pivotal to our show anymore? But I guess you guys are loving the it's Taylor in Nashville.
Certain things just become things, I guess.
It just stuck.
I'm happy to rep the South now on this side of the world, the country. Celtic Blacksmith says, "You cannot forgive someone for wronging you and still move on with your life in peace. Somebody does me dirty and they're 100% Thanos out of my life."
Yeah, I think there is something to be said about that. There are people who say, I'm not going to forgive you, but I'm not going to hold a grudge, and I can still go on about my business, and that's totally okay. If you don't want to extend forgiveness to somebody, you are not obligated to extend that forgiveness to them.
Yeah. Don't Be a Huberman says, "Hey, Familia, my girl listened to the new Daddy Yankee song and she didn't like it. So now she's getting deported. LOL. #gracias a la gracias de mi padre."
Oh, wow. You found your first red flag, I guess. She doesn't like Daddy Yankee. So there you go. And you know who would have been perfect for this episode is Andrew Huberman. He could have been on that cheated side, the cheaters, and really had given voice to his experience recently.
Yeah, if you guys missed it, we did a whole episode on Andrew Huberman earlier this week, and the memes that have come out since have been
so good.
Hilarious.
So good.
Don't Be Huberman also says, "My bad, Taylor, meant to say I'm not going to lie in that last super chat. #level up kings, looks max all the way."
Oh my gosh. Gotta do the looks maxing in the comments. Gotta promote it.
Aethers again says, "I hate the phrase forgive and forget. Forgiveness isn't instant. and you can't just forget something. The effects are still there, and people forget that.
I agree. Yeah, you don't forget what has happened. I can't imagine that you guys can think of an instance where you've forgotten something. Well, you wouldn't be able to think of it because you've forgotten it, but where somebody's done something wrong from you and it's just like exited your brain. I think it stays with you and you acknowledge it and you learn from it and you just go forward in life with the knowledge that you've gained from that experience.
Yeah, it's not the Men in Black wipe your memory with the flashing little pen, but I do get the intent, I think, of that saying is to you personally move on from the situation. You don't let it hold an air of bitterness and grief over yourself, and you can acknowledge it, like Alma was saying, or learn from it and move on. It's not necessarily saying like don't act like it never happened or deny reality. Right.
It's just they could have worded it better. I think they just wanted to use another word that started with F.
Daniel Santana says, the only way I will not forgive someone who cheated on me is if the person they cheated on with was a friend or family member.
Okay, so that carries a little bit of extra weight for you. I think that would for me too. That's a little extra salt in the wound if they cheat on you with a family member or a friend. Oh my gosh. Devastating, that is. Devastating.
And then Celtic Blacksmith responds to that and says, Daniel, anyone who would do such a thing to me is neither friend nor family, but to each their own. Cheating I'll never condone or whatever.
Yes, that is very true. That is no friend, man, who is willing to do that. I've heard some crazy stories. Like one guy cheated on his wife with her sister, and then they got together, and the family like has the sister and the husband over for like Thanksgiving and Christmas, and now this girl like doesn't go to her family functions anymore. Are you kidding me? That's the amount of betrayal. There's so many layers to that betrayal that I can't even comprehend what that must have been like.
Jail. For everybody.
Immediately.
Straight to jail. Aether says it's also unrealistic to expect a romantic partner to fill all the roles that platonic friends usually would. It's a balance, whereas where the line is.
Yes, it's very interesting, our view of relationships and how we all believe we're supposed to find this sort of all-encompassing person who checks every single box and fills every single void. And that's just not what life is about. And that's why you need a strong, healthy community, family, peers, these sort of external relationships that we build throughout our lives become so important because they do fill the gaps that your partner is not meant to fill. Like there's a reason that I, while having a boyfriend, still have female friends that I like go hang out with and, you know, fulfill the interests that I have outside of the ones that are in my relationship. And this view that we have that our partner is supposed to do everything correctly and wonderfully, I think is what lands us in really unhealthy situations and lands us in divorce and breakups. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's nerfect.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, like you made me think of C.S. Lewis has this great illustration that he gives. I don't remember in which writing, but basically he was a member of like a really tight knit group of friends, including one of them was J.R. Tolkien, the author of Lord of the Rings. And he basically talked about how like in friendships, in that group, like one person there brought out different parts of each person in that friend group. And so when one of them passed away, he wrote this little thing like lamenting the fact that a part of each of us died with that friend because the part that he brought out of, you know, John, also now is we're not going to experience that side of John and etc. And it's when you think about relationships in that way, it's this beautiful thing where you have this like circle of relationships and friendships of your life that do help bring out different parts of you and make life and relationships much more rich. So I think that is an important feature, and it is too much to ask of any single human being to be the be-all end-all of your relational life. So it's something to keep in mind. Eric Brown says, opinion, emotional cheating is mostly about intent. How do you know or prove intent? Relationships are mostly friendships. Without physicality, there's too much ambiguity to say something is cheating. It's
all about the discussions and communication that you have with your partner prior, where you establish what certain things look like and what they feel like and what you're comfortable with. Because if you have a prior discussion with your partner that says, you know what, texting a female coworker or a female friend after 11 p.m. and talking about your lives, that makes me uncomfortable. And then you find out that that's something they're doing. You've already established your boundary on it. And that's why, you know, the unhealthy thing about what that Christian girl said of I don't feel attraction or I don't even look at guys is because if you're not capable to have those discussions and have them in a very real way, you're not capable of establishing boundaries. And when you do not establish boundaries, they're bound to be broken because nobody knows where your line is, what you view cheating as, who you're attracted to, what you're attracted to, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. So it's probably good to just establish those things as best you can or confront them when you see them happening in your relationship and it's something that you're not comfortable with so that you guys have clarity. I think there's nothing better than just having proper communication and clarity in your relationship.
Yeah, and I think a good rule of thumb is just don't have conversations with anyone that you wouldn't want your significant other to see. And if, you know, that's pretty much a rule that I think will keep you out of what we would refer to as emotional cheating, because you're right that there's a lot of ambiguity around there. But as long as every bit of communication that you're having is still something that you'd be totally fine if your partner were aware of, watching, listening to, observing, then that's great. But I would even go a step beyond that and say not just what can you get away with, but like Nick, I had a pretty close friend before I moved to LA who was a female, but is totally platonic. And, you know, when I was adjusting to LA, we'd be texting, talking and all that stuff. And then a few years into my time in LA is when I got with my now wife. And I'll just say like the more intimate and substantive and committed my relationship became with my now wife, then girlfriend, the more that other conversations tapered off. And I let my wife know about that. And now I rarely talk to that, but I still consider that person just as much of a friend. She was invited to our wedding, like we went to her wedding. But if I'm having conversations with her now, it's pretty much only happening when we go visit and I'm there with my wife, and that she's like a part of those conversations. And that's not like a hard and fast rule. We never had to have a conversation of like, you know, I don't want you texting her one-on-one or anything like that. It's just kind of like naturally happened as, you know, whatever I was getting and processing my life with her. Now I'm processing with my wife, and I just out of respect and reverence for the relationship that I have with my wife, I'm only going to limit those types of conversations with her. And I think that's just common sense and wisdom, in my opinion.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Good rule of thumb.
Let's see. Don't be a Huberman again says talking about cheating. I think RP has helped a lot of guys, but the biggest problem is the whole condoned cheating aspect. 100% disagree with that.
Oh, so red pills helped a lot of guys, except for them saying that you should go and get with as many women as possible and condoning cheating. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely not helpful in my view in building a healthy relationship. Like we just saw, what's his face, Dan Blazarian come out and say, I've slept with thousands of women, and now I'm suddenly realizing that monogamy is probably the best. It's like, okay, yeah, dude, it's what humans have known for centuries, but I'm glad that you've figured it out, and I'm glad it took 2,000 women for you to come to the conclusion that you can manifest the most intimate relationship with one person over a long period of time.
Yeah. You took the scenic route on that one.
Yeah. Revelatory.
Beefy Gigantor says, there are no standards/qualifications needed to bill yourself as a therapist. It's a big problem for psychology. Blondie is probably a therapist for BetterHelp. Clown world.
Yeah, you know, I hear some people who identify themselves as therapists, and when I think about the fact that they have an impact on other people's lives, it scares the shit out of me. Like, how is it possible that you've put yourself in the position of counseling other people? Like the very same for people who say I'm a counselor or a life coach or whatever the case may be.
That gets me.
Life coaches.
What does that even mean, dude?
Yeah, let's not even get started on that whole thing. But yeah, and there are plenty of, I think, really good therapists who will say the very same thing. As I was talking at the beginning of this episode of John and Julie Gottman, who are couples therapists and do research on love and healthy relationships. They even admit like there's a ton of therapists running around there who don't know their left foot from their right and are over here advising people on what to do in their marriages, and that's kind of shocking.
Okay, I got a few more from Don't Be a Huberman. Says, huge W Taylor on why we shouldn't indulge on our impulses, such as looking at that hot girl / guy, because that's how it starts and it can go further.
Yeah.
Thank you for the W.
Don't stare down, guys. You're gonna catch a glimpse of somebody. You don't have to like linger. Did you have to let it linger?
You can't keep the bird from landing on your head, but you can keep it from building a nest.
There you go.
I think I finally said that somewhat right.
Love it.
I've tried it like 3 times on this show before and messed it up. You've seen Tommy before. You can go to a butcher to get a look at a T-bone. Don't Be Human also says, nope, I'm sorry, Amala, but you're wrong. And Kiki is right. I don't want my girl checking out other dudes being like, OMG, boy, # monogamy all the way.
Oh, wait.
Gente.
Who was, Kiki must have been the Christian girl. Maybe it's the Christian girl in the episode where she said, I'm not going to look at another man and go like, ooh, like, of course, like, don't be dramatic about it. Just don't be dramatic. And again, it's all about people's boundaries and what they're comfortable with. And everybody's comfortable with something different. But like looking at somebody being like, that's an attractive person, or like they work hard or whatever. I'm just like, yeah. And hopefully people are like doing that mentally about you when you walk down the street, and you hope people are finding you attractive or whatever. But it's just all about intent and the drama of it all, I guess.
He also says, I shouldn't have changed my profile name yet because some of these 304s or Hubermans need to get deported ASAP. White Karen story is crazy. Good riddance.
Oh my gosh.
These are all
You're just
over
trying to deport everybody that you disagree with, huh?
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't want to deport the therapist. That should have been on the top of the list this episode.
He will say he will. He will want to do that.
Miriam Bernard says, hi, Amala and Taylor. When you look up attracted to versus attractive online, they're different definitions. Either way, sick reaction video as always.
Thank you. I guess I'll have to look into this whole attraction, the semantics behind attraction, because it was clear that people were coming to the table with very different definitions. I could see somebody saying attracted to means like I'm moving toward and they're pulling me in type of thing. But yeah, for me, that's not. You can be attracted to somebody without any sort of movement toward that person or intent with that person.
Aries, it's me, says, I just had to destroy my libbed out grandma in a mini debate. A teen shouldn't be wiser than an old woman.
Oh, no. Hopefully your grandma's doing okay. Hopefully it was respectful. You didn't actually destroy her, okay?
Oh, poor grandma.
Just tell her, Grandma, nobody can destroy your life except you. You hold all the power as to who destroys your life.
Your number one priority in life should be you.
At all times.
Frost Toast says, you can cheat, but if I find out it's over. A big blue lady has been cheating on her diet, but we already knew that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I know somebody who feels very similar. Like you can go ahead and cheat, but if I find out about it, it's gonna be done. I just don't know that I agree with that. I would not give somebody permission to cheat and just say, if I don't find out about it, we're cool. You know what I mean? Like everything's gonna be fine. Just doesn't sit well with me. But a lot of people
my
feel
first
that way.
reading of that was not like I'm giving you permission, but now that you say that, that's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, you're
Only
saying,
if I find out it's over.
Yeah, if I find out it's over, which I guess is just the case. So you just hope that the person doesn't tell you. And I think a lot of people actually do feel that way. They feel like I'm in a good situation, so do what you're gonna do in your free time. But if I find out about it, it would just mentally burden them so much that they couldn't remain in the relationship. Not me, just tell me. We'll figure it out.
Couldn't be me. It took me a second to remember what you said. Couldn't be me.
Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me, brother. I need to know.
Gangu Chica says, most cheaters don't admit they've cheated. They use a DARVO, which is a psychological brain twister. Thinking a cheater will admit their shame is LOL.
What is a DARVO?
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to look this up. I'm gonna look up what a DARVO is after this. I don't think most people do admit their transgressions. Typically, somebody who cheats harbors traits of cowardice. So that same cowardice, I imagine, would carry with them, and as they're in their relationship with you, and they're not going to want to tell you what they've done. It's cowardice and it's selfish. So those are two things that don't lend well to telling the truth to your significant other. So I imagine the pattern would continue, and you're probably not going to get much clarity on the matter.
All right, a few here from Gary. I think it's one long point he's making, but we'll read them together. There's nothing wrong with sexual attraction to other people as long as they're not cheating on you. It's only bad if they are in love with someone else. And because sexual attraction to multiple people is humans' nature, we are still animals. We are meant to multiply like mad. The only reason society decided to have only one partner is because we're smart enough to choose not to listen to our nature. Humans are so arrogant, we often forget or like to pretend we're not still animals because we like to think that we are so much better than other animals.
I do agree to some extent. I don't know whether or not you're saying people should act on that sexual attraction. I didn't catch that part there. But yeah, we are. That's why we have these instincts and impulses, and they're just very real, and they appear no matter what. I mean, like, you can try to meditate them out of your brain, or you pray them away, or all these different things, but they still exist, and we should be able to acknowledge them through the lens of, these are very just animalistic tendencies that we have that are exacerbated in the world that we live in now, because everything is sort of set up for you to fail and to be enticed by things and to be tempted. And if you can't have conversations about that being a fact and about the fact that the world is set up for you to indulge those impulses, you're setting yourself up for failure in a lot of different ways. So openness about those animalistic tendencies is probably a good thing.
Don't be a Huberman again says, Counselor Karen should stop talking because the more she talks, the worse it looks for her. What is wrong with her? Banish her to them cold streets afuera.
Yeah, I think she's using her status as like a therapist / counselor to just justify beliefs and biases that she has held and will continue to hold probably for, throughout her life, that is not necessarily backed by empirical data or anything like that. And she's just carrying that with her in order to justify her own views. And, misery loves company in a lot of ways. So now she gets to bestow those views on people that she counsels who are vulnerable, which is insane.
Yeah, it reminds me of the sort of ivory tower ideologues that we react to. Like, I remember the Dr. Phil episode on the cultural appropriation, that professor, and just had this air of like, he's got it all figured out. I understand the world and how everything should work, and let me explain it to you. And it's very like condescending and smug, and it's like, you've got it all figured out. But the problem is your ideas don't actually work in reality, and they defy common sense that everyone else can see. So you're sitting on your high horse in your ivory tower, but everyone else is just kind of like, dude, WTF, this doesn't make sense.
Right. And then they get to appeal to this false authority of being a counselor or a professor or whatever it is, when it's the easiest thing in the world to maintain that, status and utilize it against people.
One more from him says, bro, white redhead has cracked up more bodies than SEAL Team 6. I would have self-castled after saying I've cheated here and there, and they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she's clearly finding success out there in the dating world if people are interested. So hopefully she's stopping the tendency she has towards cheating. Hopefully she's figured that out.
Definition of success is relative.
Yeah, to each their own.
And like you said, in that moment where she kind of glossed over, she was saying like, well, you might be running from one toxic situation to another toxic situation, but that's not really a big deal as long as you're in. It's like, wait a second. This coming from the person who, by her own admission, has been a serial cheater and has been in a series of failed relationships, and yet here you're justifying this hypothetical. It's like, not sure I want to follow your advice on this one.
No, probably not. Probably not going to follow the cheater's advice just at all on this one. Although sometimes it is helpful to hear from people who actually committed the transgression to learn things about things and take that into your next relationships. But I don't know that I'd be taking their advice.
Yeah, at least with a massive grain of salt, which is where, again, discernment is important, and having a wise and discerning mind and heart when it comes to evaluating the different advice of where people are coming from, because somebody who's done something horrible can learn a lot and can give you very wise advice, but you should still also take into account everything that they've done and where they're coming from, and be aware of that.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's to your loss if you just categorically say, I could never get anything of value out of this person. Callie, you O11 says, I think many viewers understood the question of whether it is okay to express that someone is attractive is as expressing it to that person, not to your partner.
Oh, okay. So they're thinking you're actually going to go up to the hot girl on the street and say, hey, you're a hot girl. No, I did not interpret it that way, but I could see how somebody could. And in that case, probably best not to do that. It's very much leaving the door open, or at least putting your foot in the door for further communication.
Nicodemus says, cheers to both of you. Awesome show. Are you considering doing another Tomb Raider style video like you did with Cameron Haynes? It was so refreshing.
Lift, run, shoot. Yeah, we haven't done something like that in a while. Maybe. I've thought about it. I'll have to figure out what it is that I'm gonna do if we do something like that. I've always wanted to like train with a UFC fighter for a day or something like that. That'd be fun. So we'll figure it out. Maybe we will do more adventurous content.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's just, it's a crapshoot sometimes of like what will perform, and doing something like that requires a lot of resources, and sometimes the trouble that it takes is not worth the payoff in terms of views and everything. So maybe we could like fundraise for a fun idea or something, and that would be. We do have like a dating thing in the works.
Yes, we do.
We're working on. So.
Which you guys will see soon. Project. See soon. All the single men, stick around. Stick around, guys.
One more from Gary. He says, I hate cheaters, but I'm not stupid enough to believe that people are attracted to other people. And if you say you've not been attracted to others, you're lying.
Yeah, I agree with that. Nobody's going to say, I've never been attracted to somebody other than my husband ever, other than my boyfriend ever. They're lying. I'm sorry. Like, you're categorically not telling the truth. Now, you could say I've never experienced the level of attraction that I have for my husband, or like the level of love that I have for my husband with anybody else, and that's not possible. Then yeah, sure, okay, cool. But to say you've never been attracted to anybody else ever, be so for real right now.
BFFR.
BFFR.
Elu Mendez says, off topic, but I've always wondered what that picture is behind you. It looks like the people playing volleyball. Also looks like BTS, question mark. I love y'all.
Oh, it is some beachgoers putting up an umbrella. That's the one you're referring to? Yeah. It's just some beachgoers chilling, putting a little umbrella.
I've never noticed that in the year or so that we've had this.
Yeah.
Never.
There's some interesting things going on in the background.
I actually do have a volleyball painting behind me that my mother-in-law did based on a picture of me, but it's like an outline.
There you go.
Colorful outline.
Oh, is that what they were referring to? Or were they? No, they were referring.
No, I think they were referring to yours.
Okay.
It's just kind of funny that she thought it was volleyball and actually have one.
There you go.
RG Music says, hey guys, what's your opinion on all gender restrooms?
It's fine. I mean, I've seen things like that work. Are you talking single stall, all gender? If you're talking single stall, then yeah, fine. I don't mind that.
Yeah.
If you're talking multi-stall, I would just be aware. And it's just different, like, different strokes for different folks. I think different cultures could handle different things as well, and different places could handle different things as well. I, like here, like in LA or like in New York City, would I want to go to an all-gender bathroom that has multiple stalls? No. I'll go to the next establishment. But I'm sure sometimes that would be fine.
Yeah, my thought is, I don't hold anything against you for having an all-gender restroom if it's done as a matter of practicality or out of necessity because there's only one space or something like that. However, if you're doing it with the intent of pandering to modern gender confusion and gender ideology, then it's just a big eye roll from me. It's unnecessary, and it's reinforcing ideas and giving assent to things that I don't think you should be giving, confusion that I don't think you should be giving assent to. Yeah. And so in that way, I dislike it.
Dude, my friend Risa went to a bar the other weekend or something like that, and the bathrooms had like photos of people on them, and the women's bathroom was like Caitlyn Jenner's photo for the women's bathroom, and then they put like a trans man on the man's bathrooms to signal which bathroom you should go to, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here anymore.
I know. It's like, are we going to have like pictures of like outlines of genitalia on the doors now to signify which one you should go in and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Just silly. And y'all know no woman wants to go in a man's bathroom. Okay. That's
exactly.
Just, the standards are different. It's not, there's so many reasons.
There's very many reasons.
Celtic Blacksmith says, by the way, I got a decent raise today despite turning down a promotion several times this week. Can a honky get an air horn?
Well, do I have?
Also,
I have an air horn.
Brow's missing a super chat.
Oh, there we go. Congratulations on your raise.
And yeah, congrats. Let's see. I'm trying to find the one I missed. I'll look for it in a moment here. Mickey Ray Reese says, what do you feel about porn and Insta thoughts? He blurred out the vowels there. And finding out your spouse is habitually watching that. Is that a form of cheating? Can I be upset?
It's all about what you've agreed to in your relationship and what you feel comfortable within your relationship. I would imagine there would be a lot of people that would feel upset to find out that their partner is habitually watching pornography, and that does sort of feel like a betrayal, especially if it's happening whilst in your presence and things like that. It definitely warrants a conversation if you're uncomfortable about it and it's an activity that they're engaging in, and you can say that makes me feel hurt and insecure, or it makes me feel as though you're cheating, or that does signify cheating for me personally. So yeah, I mean, definitely warrants a discussion if you guys are not on the same page.
Yeah, and the fact that you're using the words finding out signifies that that's not something that you have given assent to in any way, and so would be something that needs to be talked about. Frau Kenzerlin says, my dad cheated on my mom and now he has ALS. And my mom now has ALS. He's having to be her caretaker. I feel like it's how he has to atone and wonder if it absolves him.
Ooh, tough situation, that one. Very, very tough situation. I don't know that anything like cancels out another. I would hope that they're in a good place in their relationship where him taking on this role of a caretaker is something that's healthy and good for the both of them, and that they've grown past the transgression, especially if they are seemingly going to be in each other's lives in this capacity for a very long time. I think in a lot of ways, these sort of larger tragedies that befall us in life make previous ones just sort of seem insignificant. And hopefully that's what happened. Sometimes something as horrible as that can reignite the love and the care that you have for somebody. And it makes you look back on things you might have done out of betrayal or, out of your own self-interest and think, oh, wow, I could not have anticipated the role that I would have in this person's life later on and how much I do love and care for them.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. That's horrible. And that speaks to me. It's just like the need to leave no stone unturned, and so much as that it's in your ability today to rectify bad situations, to bring truth where there's been lies, and give yourself and your significant other the opportunity for a healthier, more truthful situation. Like, do it and not wait, because you could find yourself in a position where you can't now all of a sudden, and that makes a tragedy even worse. Funning in Circles says, if A-Team is saving California from falling into the ocean and S-Class is saving Florida, which team are you joining?
I don't know about either of those things. I have to look into what you're referencing. I don't know what that is. Sure.
If you could only pick one state to save, would it be California or Florida?
I don't have an answer, to be honest with you. I really don't.
It's kind of a weird hypothetical.
I really don't. It's all people. Yeah. It's all people. We're all chilling. We're all coexisting. I don't know that I have an answer.
Yeah. James Tenvilla says, too much to say on this topic to type. Just want to say I love you guys.
Aw, thank you. Love you too. I love that button. You couldn't tell.
Professor Batts says, DARVO means deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. Happy Easter, everybody.
Reverse victim. Okay, I'm going to have to actually look into this whole different thing about cheaters using DARVO. It's so funny because my best friend Risa, her last name is Darvo, although it's spelled differently. But kind of sucks that it's associated with people cheating.
Forgot about that. That's funny. She's by definition a sociopath.
Yeah, sorry.
One more from Jamestown says, on a personal note, I love the fact that Taylor's Christian and Amal's not. I'm agnostic myself and love listening to both viewpoints. Don't agree with everything you both say. You keep the wheels turning.
It's good. Yeah, I think it strikes a good balance to have a couple of different perspectives on this show. And of course, you guys, the audience, you guys encompass a whole ton of different backgrounds and perspectives. So it's always good.
Mm-hmm. Got that, got the male, female, got the millennial, Gen Z.
Yeah. We're striking all different types of chords.
Some different perspectives. Don't Be a Huberman says, I just want to hear Taylor say this in Trump's voice. 304 is afuera.
In Trump's voice.
I can't do Spanish, Trump, and Red Pill.
Yeah,
altogether.
you're asking a lot, guys. You're asking a lot.
Yeah, especially if this is like super chat number 7 for you. So
you're cut off.
Cutting you off. He says, also, Kings, test girls you go out with. They be projecting purity all day long.
Oh my god.
What does that even mean? How do you test?
Don't test somebody you're going out with. Oh my gosh. Alex, when will you learn? When will you learn?
When will you learn?
Your fantasies will never be quenched.
Couple more new ones coming in. Flight Inc. says, hey squad, former Democrat at birth. Just found you guys about 3 months ago. Just wanted to hear you guys say Maryland in a DMV accent.
Maryland?
What is up with the performance request? And also, what is a DMV accent?
I don't know what that means, guys. We don't have this in our wheelhouse. This is not in our repertoire.
I like doing accents like when I can initiate.
Yeah, I can appreciate a good accent.
On demand, it's too much pressure.
It is too much pressure, indeed.
Kiana M. Rossi says, this is my first time catching you live. I'm a fairly new fan, and I really love your videos. They get me through work.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for catching us live for the first time. Hopefully it's been a good experience for you. An interesting subject.
And I believe that was our last one for the day.
Love it. For the week. Guys, we're going to close out the show now. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Let me know what you're getting up to in the chat or in the comments after we end this little chat. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave your thoughts on all the different topics we discussed on the show today in the comments down below. As always, if you disagree with me, which I'm sure many of you will, duke it out in the comments down below, but do so respectfully. As always, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every single day. Tomorrow, we're going to be reacting to The View, which Coleman Hughes was on as a guest to defend his arguments for a colorblind America. And it's a very interesting video, and he absolutely killed it. So excited for you guys to see it. We did get another super chat from Kwazakule that says some boundaries should be common sense. Don't actively look for attractive people. Different circumstances and experiences is the rule. Based Quasi out. We appreciate that, Kwazakule, and I stand by that statement. Yeah, for the most part, these things are common sense, but it doesn't hurt to have the discussion. So you guys continue this discussion in the comments down below, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.